Warning. The Dub Talk podcast may contain language and content that may not be suitable for younger audiences. Listener discretion is advised. There will also be spoilers for various anime throughout the course of this episode. Please proceed with caution in case we discuss a series you've yet to finish. Finally, the opinions expressed are those of the individual participants and do not reflect the Dub Talk podcast as a whole. Enjoy the show.
Hello, mortal humans, and welcome to the Dub Talk podcast, where on any given night we would cover the dub of the latest and greatest in anime. However, tonight is a very special one, for as you see, this is a retrospective episode. If you're not aware, it's Dub Talk's 10th anniversary, and for celebrating 10 years of episodes of greatest hits, we decided to take a step back in time to revisit some of our favorite episodes from the first 100 episodes, right, Steph?
Not necessarily the first 100 episodes, but within the first 3 years of the podcast's existence.
The first 3 years of the podcast's existence. And for those of you that don't recognize my voice, I'm the earthly vessel named is Jamal, bearing a posthumous name. I cast unto see my fellow castmates, the cat Steph.
Meow. Meow.
The Uchigatana Megan.
Cut my bitch up.
Oh my. And the stuffed cow plushie Andrew.
If phantoms try to take me on, they'll have to catch these hooves or face utter despair.
Oh my god! Why?
I will admit the stuffed cow plush came out of nowhere all of a sudden.
I'm so glad that Andrew has embraced being gender fluid and having udders.
No, you want to know where the stuffed cow plushie comes from? My slightly somber moment. So, for Christmas a few years ago, one of the last Christmases when my Nana was alive, my grandmother, we gave her a stuffed cow plushie for Christmas. And when she passed away, I was visiting my mom shortly after, and one of the first things I managed to grab to bring home with me was that same cow plushie. So it's currently in our office.
That cow was how me and her bonded for the first time, because we kept telling Steph to go break into the neighbor's yard and go pet their cows.
Yep.
Bless that woman's heart.
I love her.
Yeah, so for the month of May, I decided to go back and cover probably one of the most widely known shows at the time, but we didn't really touch on it too much. If you've seen the early episodes, we're gonna take a look at the dub of Noragami as well as the second season, Noragami Arigato.
I'm gonna make a slight correction. So here's the background a little bit with the Noragami stuff. So Megan and I, back when the podcast really early started, we covered season 1, but at the time it was just the announcement of the dub and there was no episodes to talk about.
Wait, is that all it was?
That's all it was.
We hadn't even watched any of we had heard nothing.
Yep, we had maybe a trailer, that was it.
I assumed it was at least a couple episodes.
No,
I didn't realize you got a
Nope.
cast list and you're like, oh shit.
Nope, it was just mostly the announcement. And then, I think like a year or two later, we covered season 2. However,
It was mostly talking about season 1.
You were just shooting the breeze.
Well, kind of, but it was also mixed in together with, I think at the time, it was Attack on Titan Junior High and the second season of Seraph of the End.
Oh, that's the concept.
So,
okay.
Technically, this is going to be the third time we've talked about Noragami, but the first time in its full entirety.
I also
Yes, and
vividly remember that episode because I believe I had just come back from a con and I had like no voice on that whole episode.
Oh, the first Noragami? Oh yeah, that's right,
Yeah.
you did it.
So basically,
I had somebody asleep on a bed behind me when I recorded that.
Do you remember who they were?
Yeah, it was my friend Christine.
Ah, okay.
Oh yeah.
But
Yes.
you could say that when previously you discussed Noragami, you used to just be a tiny, insignificant little microphone, a little USB microphone, but you have since evolved into a blessed vessel and become a full-on studio-grade HyperX Quadcast microphone.
Legit, no. The Noragami was like maybe probably within the first 10 episodes of the podcast of existing.
It was episode 7.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was super early.
So
I was gonna say
lucky number 7.
Yep.
It's not the earliest we've covered so far. So far, that honor has gone to Death Parade. So far. Keyword.
Yeah, and since this is the third time we'll be covering the show, it's the third time's the charm, you know?
Yeah, it's true.
It's kind of an interesting story how this episode came about. So back when last year, we were, I guess, having a little bit of a committee trying to decide what episodes we wanted to cover, and in my heart, I was kind of dead set originally on Hakata Tokotsu Ramens because I was personally dissatisfied with that episode and how it turned out because the first arc we covered, because I watched 6 episodes were out at that time and I watched all of them, but we only covered the first arc, which was like the first 4 episodes, and I was like, oh Jesus Christ, this is frustrating the fuck out of me because for one thing, we couldn't talk about the most interesting character at that time, which was the Hitman Ninja. Which was I forget the actor's name, but I'll try to post it later.
It's been a hot minute since I've seen
Chris Gardner. That was his name, and I wanted to give the man his flowers. And I was originally set on that, and then all of a sudden, an earworm decided to rear its ugly head and come back into my life. That earworm being the second OP to Noragami.
Oh yeah.
I was like. Hello, darkness,
I swear, I respect the hero.
So here's a little bit more behind the scenes context for folks. So aside from the retrospective series is just a limited series for the year of 2025. That's it. Each of us got to pick an episode that was redo an episode that was within the first 3 years. The catch is either it could be an episode that we had previously hosted. And we try and get some or all of the original participants a part of it. Or, if there's an episode that you wanted to cover, if you brought it to my attention that's something that you wanted to do and host an episode on, I basically had essentially final say as to whether or not it was a go or not. And Jamal, because he was never part of the original Noragami stuff on either iteration.
I was not.
So he approached me. He was like, "Hey, I'm kind of interested in doing an episode for Noragami. Is that something you'd be cool with? 1, and 2, would you want to be part of it?" I'm like, "Hell yeah, let's do this!" Because Noragami's such a good show. And
yes.
I was so due for a rewatch on it, so I'm excited about this.
On top of that, there's also further context because last year around that time there was some speculation during an anniversary they had, and I thought, wait, is this finally gonna happen? And I remembered I have to temper my expectations because nothing's ever what it seems.
Pachinko machine.
The funniest thing is
I will Bob Barker your ass for that.
See, the funniest thing is it's not even pachinko machines anymore. It hasn't been for a while. What it actually is mobile gacha games that last a year or less.
Yeah.
Mobile Suit Gacha.
No, it's Mobile Suit Gacha games that aren't Fire Emblem or Fate that last a year or less.
The market is so, like, there are clear winners in the gacha market right now that it's like anything that's trying to even compete, it's just... It has an uphill battle. Rip and piss. Tribe 9. Rip and piss. Tribe 9.
Oh man.
Yep.
Listen. None of you are Love Live fans, man.
Oh,
I went from having 3 mobile gacha games to 0.
Listen.
They literally
you forgot about Udapri though.
No, Love Live literally announced the opening and closing
of their English server at the same time.
No way.
They did.
Yeah. I swear to God, it's true. Story time before we get back on track. So there used to be 2 different Love Live games. There was Love Live School Idol Festival, which ran for like 10 plus years.
Uh-huh.
And then they made All Stars, which was like a 3D version. And they were like, well, we don't want to have 2 games with all the different groups in it, so we're just going to make one game where at the time all 4 groups were together. And they shuttered the other 2 games so everybody would focus on that game, except for the mechanics on it and the rates on it were terrible, so nobody really wanted to play it because they were all pissed about the other 2 games.
Oh my god.
So they were like, yeah, no, it's coming to English, it's gonna come to English, and then like the day they announced it for English, it's like, we're having it, and we're also closing it in like 3 months. I was so angry.
What the fuck?
So how many pulls can 5 yen get me in a gacha game?
That's a good question.
Not one.
Fuck off.
Not
Fuck
a
off,
1.
I had to guess.
Not a 1.
It feels like it would give me like a 16th of a pixel of a JPEG girl.
You can look at Nico's pixelated pupil.
Or maybe a pixelated strand of hair. I don't know.
Okay.
Oh god.
Anyway, back to Noragami. Jamal.
Pixelated feet is 10 yen.
Will you please tell the folks at home what Noragami is about for those who have not heard anything about this before?
Yeah, it has been a while, hasn't it?
It has been
for those
10 years.
Yeah. Exactly 10 years if you think about it. I'll explain that later.
Yep.
For those who wonder about what the show is about, minor god Yato is down on his luck. Yato's partner is fed up with his slacker lifestyle and abruptly quits. He has no money, no worshippers, and no shrine to call home.
And no bitches.
Yeah, meanwhile, tension's pulling a lot of bitches. But just when things are starting to seem hopeless, a bus accident forces him to cross paths with Hiyori Iki, a sweet and perky high school whose soul can't seem to stay in her body. I will admit this show was definitely fun to rewatch, and I realized, sometimes within the world of anime, there are parallels to other series I find within other shows. Mm-hmm. The whole world building, the naming of weapons, the gods, the pretty much more or less everything. If you think about it kind of reminds me of Bleach, but with better writing.
Okay, so actually, I'm kind of glad you mentioned you were comparing this to other things, where I was thinking to myself, I watched Noragami a while ago. I remember liking it, but I sort of remembered, like, how do I describe this? When we were assigning retrospective things, I was like, I like Noragami, but I didn't remember, like, being in love with Noragami, so I'm like, I'll sit this one out. And then I'm rewatching it with Steph, and then I'm realizing, oh shit, what the fuck was I thinking? I really like Noragami.
So, side note, originally Andrew wasn't a part of this episode until today.
Literally today, but I watched the whole show with Steph, and after a while, like, once I got into, like, the middle of Arigoto, I went from being like, okay, this is really good, I'm glad I'm watching this, to, oh fuck, I want it on this. So, if I had to kind of describe, like, Noragami, like, I could compare it to a couple of things in that it's like, I'm going to make one potentially uncouth comparison, but I promise there is a method to the madness.
I swear to God, I want to take a bet right now, 5 yen, that if he says, welcome to Demon School Iruma-kun.
Shockingly, no. Shockingly, no. I was going to say there's a bit of Soul Eater in there because of the thing that their allies and comrades
weapon,
turned into weapons and all that.
Yep.
Also, the soundtrack.
Also the soundtrack. It is also Taku Iwasaki, which, man, Taku Iwasaki has a great track record with Bones and also with Lotus Juice. Because, man, him and Lotus Juice make some killer music. Because for all the good songs in there, I keep thinking the fucking Raktangu, and then, like, Lotus Juice just fucking, like, freestyling and going hard. But, no, there's 2 other shows I would compare Noragami to.
Okay.
One, I say, is uncouth, not for content, but because of its creator. There is things about Yato's past and his, like, attempt to turn over a new leaf and redemption, that reminds me similar to a series by the name of Kenshin.
Oh.
I get what you get at, but yeah.
But there is another thing I would compare it to as well, which I specifically got from the relationship between one Yato and Hiyoriiki. This series is very Inuyasha, except it takes place in modern Japan instead of feudal Japan.
Okay.
I can also add one more in terms of Regalia and the Masters, and
I disagree with the Inuyasha comparison.
You disagree with Inuyasha.
I disagree with Inuyasha, but Jamal, continue.
I just want to add one more in terms of the Regalias and the Masters and how the Masters have to their pain. I don't know if anybody here's ever seen this but me, but Corpse Princess Shikabane Hime, and I will explain more when I get into a couple of the characters. So
That's a deep-ass cut.
very deep. So deep, I don't know if I dare rewatch that show again.
Oh, lordy.
I don't know anything about it to know if it's a bad show or what.
I mean, it was the first thing I ever watched. It was a pretty decent show, pretty good show, but some of the themes will kind of upset you a little bit.
For $10, you can request to make us watch it again.
Corpse Princess.
This is true. If you have $10, you can become a patron of ours and tell us to watch it every couple months.
I'm already putting
Watch
you
the
through
same
emotional
one
hell,
every couple
Megan.
months?
What?
You made it sound like we have to watch Corpse Princess every couple of months if you're a $10
You know what?
patron.
No, we need to make like a $5,000 patron subscription that forces the podcast to watch the same show once a month every year.
There are
good
worse
God.
things to do with one's money.
There are! Unfortunately, that's true.
Yep.
You could call a god of calamity to do your bidding and murder people.
But he's not worth $5,000 at least.
Yeah, it's
But
called
my
the
silence is.
It's called
My
the
silence.
It's called the podcast discount.
No, that's the god
But-
of poverty, not calamity.
Oh boy. But you know who we can call on for a show like this, though?
Who?
Our ADR staff.
Yay!
So would they be shrine maidens in this scenario?
Oh, for fuck's.
Shut up, Andrew.
Remember, it is morally correct to dunk Andrew.
It is. It's always morally correct to dunk Andrew. It's a national holiday every day. It's Dunk on Andrew Day.
I'm pretty sure a couple of these people will be shrine maidens, but one in particular could kick your ass for that.
Anyway.
As long as you don't, especially if you try to throw stones in her house. For our ADR staff.
God!
Anyway.
Alright, take a deep breath.
You got this, buddy.
So, I'm talking to y'all, not me.
Oh my god.
Starting with our ADR directors, we have two and an assistant director. For season 1, we have Mike McFarland, who you see direct other shows such as Attack on Titan, Mushishi, Shiki, Tokyo Ghoul, and Wolf Children, to name a few, of course. But for season 2, it kind of changed hands. And Caitlin Glass has taken over for season 2. Caitlin Glass, who you see direct other shows such as Fruits Basket 2019, the Garo franchise, Horimiya, Lord Marksman Vanities, and Show by Rock, just to name a few. And she was also assisted by Afia Yu on episodes 4 and 5, who you see direct other shows such as Assassination Classroom, The Quintessential Quintuplets, the TV series, of course, and SSSS Danazenon. For our scriptwriters, we have Blair Rowan, who wrote 3 episodes of season 1, but you've seen him write for other shows such as Arya the Scarlet Ammo, Blood Blockade Battlefront, and Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, the majority of the episodes. But for the rest of the episodes, you see Bonnie Clinkenbeard on this. She has written for shows such as Black Butler, Fruits Basket 2019, Red Day to Go, to name a few. So, how do we want to start this conversation?
I have a question for you because this is a holy show. I figured I should open up with confessions.
Oh, God.
Jesus Christ.
My confession I offer for this 5 yen coin. For several years, I always thought her name was Bonnie Chickenbeard instead of Bonnie Clinkenbeard.
Jesus
Oh.
Christ. Andrew.
I remember really like seeing that in like Adult Swim like airings of Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood,
Please tell me
seeing
you're
the name,
joking.
and I always read it several times as Bonnie Chickenbeard.
I think I remember you mentioned this in one of the earlier episodes. Which one? The hell if I know.
Look, it's a retrospective, so we need to have a retrospective about our careers and our mistakes and how we
You mean
have
like
grown.
the time that you mean like the let's retrospect to the time that you got kicked out of your dorm because of a fire alarm.
That was not my fault. I cannot confess sin
Was it?
to something that was not my fault. That was some motherfucker that burnt their Pop-Tart or some shit. College kids are stupid.
You want to know what sucks? The fact that he...
Takes one to know one.
So you want to know what sucks? His stupid little bit confession right now, I'm staring at a name we're going to come across in a few minutes, and I'm like, motherfucker. My confession where I mispronounce names for the longest fucking time. Anyway, I actually kind of want to start with the direction, if that's okay, because I was so fucking stoked, and Megan can attest to this. I was stoked when Mike McFarlane was announced to direct this show for season 1, like, because at that point, Mike, in my head, Mike has established himself as a very, very phenomenal and prominent director in what was at the time Funimation realm, and you would give him the big properties, but on every so often a relatively smaller one, because Noragami wasn't, I don't think, a huge property at the time, like here in the States, but it was given a little love and attention by Mike, and I appreciate that. And while the transfer to season 2 under Caitlin, I was sad because I was just like, why is Mike not on the show? But my brain is also like, Caitlin is very capable. She's more than capable of continuing on with the direction and where the show was headed. And also, if I remember correctly, didn't Caitlin also act as an assistant director for quite some time with Mike under the original Full Metal Alchemist?
Yes.
Yep, she did.
Okay, so I had to take a look because I remembered season 1 was a home video release that I think came out like a year and a half, maybe
Correct.
2 years
Yeah.
after the original broadcast.
No, it was
Or-
like a year after.
No, it was
like
year. It was a year. It was.
Arago-
Okay, here's what it was.
Hang on.
The first season, the home video release came out, and I think the first video said June 7th, 2015.
Yeah.
Later that year,
Okay.
Was Arago.
it transitioned. Yes, it had became a simuldub at that point, because remember, it's back when it was called the broadcast dub,
It was
when
a
things
year,
were starting up.
It was a year 1 broadcast dub.
Yes, correct.
And the reason
Yes.
Caitlin Glass had to take over, because at the time they were airing Attack on Titan Junior High.
That's why.
And I
Yeah.
believe Tokyo Ghoul Ray was that season.
No, it was
No.
It
No,
was-
Ray
it
was
was
that
before
winter.
that.
It was the second half of Seraph.
Right. It was. Yeah.
It was
I'm
the
trying
second
to
half of
remember.
Seraph. Because
Yeah,
remember, we
'cause
had
was
that
Double Talk.
episode. That was that episode we
Because
had
that was
where we did
that was
junior
the
high.
because the double talk that was the double talk block at the time.
correct.
It's
But
a good.
like,
I'm sorry. It's a good thing you mentioned Seth, because there were a couple of qualms I had with QC that kind of pertains to a particular character we'll talk about later, and it's a good thing you bring that up.
Yeah, I genuinely remember that the Blu-ray release was like a year after the show aired, because the show aired, I think, if I'm correct, winter 2014.
that sounds
Because here's the thing. This is the thing I remember about watching Noragami the first time when it was subtitled. Was I had just graduated college. And I marathoned it on my TV that I had gotten for graduation.
You would be correct. It's winter 2014.
Yeah, because that summer Tokyo Ghoul would come out, and I became obsessed with it.
Yep.
I remember watching Noragami and Arigoto in like my college dorm because
I was in grad school when season 1 happened, and then season 2 I had graduated by that point. So
Yeah. I was a dishwasher at that point, so
goodness. Yeah, this stuff's good.
yeah, it still holds up really nicely.
There's a lot of interesting picks, like looking back on it retrospective wise, but like, man, it's kind of amazing that this dub's like a decade old now, and like there's still some like killer like career highlights in the show.
I would argue the 3 leads alone would be career highlights for them still.
Honestly, fair. Honestly,
Oh,
extremely
yeah.
fair.
Mm-hmm. And then there are definitely some like of the major or secondary characters where, because for that time, right, you had a mix of very well established actors giving performances you don't normally would have seen them in at that point in time, i.e., I'm just looking at this list, Kazuma, right? Kazuma's a big one, I think. And then you also have newer actors at that time
Who are now huge.
i.e. Bishamon,
Yeah.
who just blew it out of the water during that. Like, the Bishamon Kazuma conversation is going to be so fucking interesting, I will say this much. But no, I think, like, on the directing and the writing side, the directing was very solid. It definitely played to all of the different points and beats and moments of the show, whether it is the comedic, the dramatic, or sometimes the even more like gut-wrenching, like emotional parts. And the writing did extremely well to complement it. Bonnie, because she's the primary writer on this, Blair did a few episodes. Bonnie has always been good with this kind of material. Like, full stop. She's always been good with this type of material. So I was extremely happy, I remember at the time when Bonnie was announced to take on the show. Because I think by that point, I had already seen Death Parade. And she did so phenomenal with Death Parade. So I was just, like, thrilled to see this happen. And then you have Blair and you have assisting on the writing end, and you have Afi assisting on season 2's directing end, and it just came together so nicely, and I'm still thrilled that it holds up today.
I genuinely think like this is one of those shows where it's like I can definitely tell at the time some of these decisions might have been like a little how do I describe it? Like products of their time is the word that comes to mind, because it's like it's a lot of people that back then it still had to be like within the area, or you had to get somebody at the time. Mm-hmm. But I can kind of tell, like looking at some of these, like with retrospect, certain casting decisions were definitely made like approximately to the time this was dubbed.
Yeah.
Because it's like there's a bunch of like local people from Dallas, but like there's one person that's like has been in the LA scene for over a decade now, and I know that they were there because
of something. Yeah, I was gonna say.
Which, yeah. It's very interesting looking at a show like this in hindsight, but more than anything, Noragami's a show I think I remembered like, oh, that was pretty good. And then I watched it again. This show and this dub's really good.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
I kind of forgot in this level of like, I don't know how to describe it. It's like, maybe it's just because of all the stuff I was watching at the time. Like, maybe it's because, like, my big college era was me watching a whole bunch of stuff. And I was just like, oh, I just binged this a bunch. This was one of my 20 shows I watched in my dorm room that year.
And especially especially if it's not even including, like, maybe, like, 5 or 6 in a season alone, I would assume.
Oh, yeah, 100%. So I think this might have been...
like, focusing on the one show, yeah.
So kind of locking into this one, now that I'm a little older, a little wiser, a little grayer, yeah, the show's incredible. It's still really good, and I'm very impressed by a lot of the performances and the overall care and, like, genuine, like, passion that went into a lot of this. I remember hearing, like, a couple of, like, I know Caitlin got close with like a couple of actors on this one just from their time working on Noragami, and it's not hard to see why. This is definitely a trial by fire show.
Yeah.
I think
It's amazing. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you first.
Yeah, it's amazing how well it's held up, because I remember watching the commentaries. Mike talks about like when he would direct the show, he would usually keep his sessions further loose, but Noragami kind of made this extremely hard for him, and when we get to Yukine, you'll understand why. But it's amazing how like yeah, he had to control his sessions to the point where like some of the dramatic stuff he had to start at the back half and keep like some of the lighter tones and maybe the softer speaking dialogue in the front. I mean, okay, I had that backwards. Basically, he starts out with big screamy scream first, then the softer speaking, the stoic dialogue later. Just to make sure that not only do you reach your potential, but you're able to control that potential too. Much like some of these characters in this show. And I think, having a strong director and a strong script writer in Bonnie kind of really helps to bring that focus out, especially when they had to make the transition from DVD dub to simul dub, because I remember Hiyori's actress, she was basically a freshman in college when she started through all this, and she talks about like during her sessions, like she would just crash out of the studio sometimes and take snaps in between sessions, because that's how demanding a show like this is for actors. Like, hell, even a lot of them admitted on commentary that when they were announced to be cast for the show, they started binging the sub when it was on Netflix. Like, maybe a few episodes at a time before they ended up watching the whole of season 1.
God, Netflix like a decade ago is very different than Netflix today, that's for sure.
Yeah, it was. I mean, hell, even that.
What a difference 10 years would make.
Did they even start doing right? Netflix original anime then? I don't even remember.
No.
No.
God, that's crazy.
I know, right? Anyway, what were you gonna say, Megan?
Oh, I was gonna give my thoughts on the direction and the writing.
Go for it.
Yeah, no. So it's really weird to come back to this now, like after 10 years. I've probably not watched the show in like 10 years. Or at least since Arigato aired, which would be right about 10 years. As of October. I'm old. But I genuinely really like it, and I will say this though, as much as I like the dub of season 1, I think the dub of season 2 is a bit better. I find it far more polished, actually, which is really funny to say, since that was the simuldub one and not the DVD dub. But granted, also, the last 3 episodes of season 1 are complete filler and are absolutely useless to the story, and I have my own
I've got words for that.
I have more words for this as an adaptation, because I think I am the one person here who's actually read a majority of the Noragami manga.
Yeah, that's why I'm grateful to have you on here.
I've not read it in its entirety. I think I'm like 10 volumes behind, but I've read what was covered in the anime. Mostly because the Bishamon arc is probably one of my favorite arcs in all of anime and manga. I think the writing on this is sublime. I do like a lot of the little pop culture references that they snuck in there. Don't think I didn't catch that Hotel California joke.
Yeah.
For me, it was Bodies by Drowning Pool.
Yeah, let the bodies hit the floor.
Also, there was a line Tension had by Entanglement. I'm like, Jesus Christ. But that was before the whole situation that happened.
Here's the thing with me upon rewatching this show, is it was a lot hornier than I remembered.
Yeah.
I'll be real. I was like, this is a little bit hornier than I remember, because when Yuki's going through the triangle of shame, at one point, I was trying to feel up Hiyori.
Yeah.
Just like...
It's a genuinely, like, they don't play that for comedy, but it's like, yeah, it is a legit moment where he's like, yeah, he's kind of like a year or two younger than her, so...
Yeah, he's horny for her. He's horny for her.
Hormones are crazy when you're a kid that's angry and depressed, and also
and dead.
14.
And
also
dead.
dead at 14.
Welcome to a show about death.
Okay.
But like, no, I do really like the casting on this. It is kind of insane to like sit back and look at the major characters and you're like, yeah, no, now you're like a mainstay in the anime dubbing industry and you've done like these huge, big, incredible productions and you're still like, wow. I do want to say this is the dub that I think actually turned me around on the guy who plays Yato as a voice actor.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Because I have words for another franchise that's being currently dubbed by Caitlin Glass right now, and how much I don't like a certain performance in that, and I apologize. But I overall really like this dub, and I was like, wow, this is really easy to sit and watch and sit and listen to. I also just like some of the really interesting casting choices that we're not talking about. Very specifically, getting to hear Jamie Marchi as the quiet older lady type.
Yeah.
Yep.
Cause she's the plum tree spirit who wants to bang Lord Tenjin.
Oh, she's the tree hugger, right?
Yeah, she's a tree hugger. Or I know we're not talking about her, but like Monica Rial as the really skimpy outfit that
Yup.
I think it's really funny that, like, she became, like, the favorite, like, guard. Like, you can tell her defense must be, like, crazy going by JRPG rules.
Oh, yeah, no. I will talk about it when we get to talking about I guess, like, the first section of characters, but I will talk about why that one character was kind of jealous.
Okay.
Yeah, basically.
No, it was a good-ass dub.
Good ass dub, great ass dub. Oh man.
Love it.
So we're good to move on then?
Yeah.
Alright, so because we're talking about both seasons simultaneously, we kind of have a unique order here. We're going to talk about basically some of the major villains of this show. Going from season, well, I say major in quotations, going from season 1 to season 2, because as we just discussed, one of them turned out to be complete filler, and I am not happy about him, but we'll get more into that later. Yeah, so basically in this section we have Rabo, used to be human, was basically a herald, would sneak into the enemy encampment and would kill the soldiers, and to make sure that no word gets out, he was killed in order to be silenced. He was basically deified and reincarnated into a god of calamity, woke from a 500-year slumber to reunite with the Yato god, who he deems a little unworthy after his time spent. As you just said, we come to find out he's basically a filler episode. I'm not gonna lie, I really thought his arc was kind of weak, and now I know why.
It's literally because, yeah, they needed something to sort of... I think it's clear that they're like, we need something to end this on, and back then... a decade ago, the concept of how they pace out shonen anime has certainly changed a lot in a decade since it was back then.
Kids these days would not understand filler, nor could they handle it. Then again, some of them think actual show is filler. I have literally seen Solo Leveling fans say Freerun has filler.
Bitch, no!
There are people that... I think there's this level of, like, the concept of what filler is has gotten to such a ridiculous standard of anything that does not move the main plot along is filler, which it's like... that's a level of genuine absurdity, because that just means you don't want characters, you want functions. You want functional action set pieces.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Andrew, it's not even about moving the plot forward, it's why is there not fighting?
And here's the thing, by modern day standards, guess what?
The filler has definitely changed in 10 years.
Guess what? Rabo does meet those standards, actually. He's got some...
All it is fight scenes!
So here's the thing.
Yeah.
He's not filler then!
I'm also going to argue in defense of filler and say the reality is... this is not even that bad.
It's not that bad.
It's underwhelming. It's like, Jamal, you were talking about this is a better Bleach. This is a subpar to above average Bleach filler arc.
Yes. And I bet you know which one I'm thinking of exactly.
I don't.
Wait. Okay, never mind. No, it's the one with the whole Rankas and how the hollows get absorbed into the captains, that kind of thing.
I'm gonna be real with you. I've suppressed a lot of Bleach.
I stopped after season 2 of the show.
I gotta go watch some close.
I'm not the biggest Bleach stan here. I'm more of a Windex guy.
Yeah, we know you drink that.
Yeah, we know you love your Windex.
Callbacks. Anyways, what I'm saying is, I don't think those episodes are that terrible. They're inoffensive, but yeah.
They're not terrible, but
Compared
like
to the
you
rest
pointed
of the
out,
show.
other than maybe sort of engage y'all's backstory a little, it doesn't really do much for me.
That's
like I said.
Anyways, who else we got?
Your mom.
Jesus.
Thank you.
I see where Megan's going with this.
We don't have mom, we have man-child, though.
No, we got the guy who wants mommy's attention as Yato.
Man-child.
As Yato.
Why don't you build me up, Buttercup? We have we have Dr. Kuga, aka Kugaha, who's one of Bishamon's regalia. Well, what is regalia? So turns out to be a balance. The scales of balance, which kind of makes sense for this arc. He basically plots to.
He's a snake.
Yeah. He basically plots to reincarnate Bishamon because he believes that she's supposed to be this god of war, this ruthless person, but she's just taking pity on all those that he deems unworthy, and as a result, we find out later he's actually a Nora. He doesn't fully go by the name Kuga, and once he's released from Bishamon's banner in Takamagahara, he kind of seeks revenge against the Yato god, especially for cutting off his hand. Jesus Christ.
So if I was to describe Kuga, basically, you know those obsessive idol fans that get, like, real crazed to the point where it's like, I liked you back when you were your early work, or I liked your original work before you got mainstream, and then they become an obsessive stalker and try to kill him?
Ew, I hate that, but it actually makes sense for him.
Yeah.
Oh my
Oshi no
God.
Noragami.
God
No!
damn
No!
it.
No! Oshi Noriko.
No.
Shut Oshi Noriko.
Jamal, who's
I
the
just-
next person
Oh,
we're talking
shut
about,
up.
please?
Oh, shut up.
Who are we talking
Not you, Steph. Not you,
Who
Steph.
else? No, I'm trying to get him to shut up. Who else are we talking about, Jamal?
Your mom.
No.
We also have another one of Bishamon's regalia, Aiha, whose alternate form is a suit of armor. We find out that Bishamon in this arc suffers a blight from having taken on all the strain of obtaining all this regalia. We find out she develops a blight because one of them kind of becomes a bit jealous and upset that Bishamon has it called out to her. See, in this universe, what it is with regalia, if you don't maintain your borderline, you're basically one step closer to becoming a phantom yourself. That's kind of where the Bleach comparisons kind of come in, because it's basically either a spirit and you get possessed by a hollow, or you get sent to heaven. That's kind of the comparison for me. That's where I see it. That's in the first season. I know y'all know that at least. Anyway,
Before Bleach went to shit.
I ain't gonna shit on Bleach tonight. That's not my plan, anyways.
Again, that's why I say this is Bleach but better writing. The only difference is one was in Shonen Jump, the other was in Kodansha. Anyway, because her jealousy kind of raged on, she ends up, she's kind of gullible. She ends up working with Dr. Kugaha to kind of take control of the situation.
She basically gets gaslit to becoming his co-conspirator.
Basically, she has a scourge staff, and as a result, more phantoms start to grow on her. and they employ phantoms in their plans, which, Jesus Christ.
Which, man,
And
Kuga is like quintessential gaslighter before gaslighting was even a term in the lexicon.
Yeah, basically. And as a result of her actions, she manages to get abluted, which I'll explain more later on. And kind of atones for her sins, basically, by working side by side with Bishamon in the Ebisu arc, which we'll get to later. And as for all of this all kind of results in from one central character, Nora. Well, I have to explain. Nora is not her name. What her name is, she has many. What a Nora is basically a regalia that... Oh, Jesus, I can't believe I'm going to say this. It's basically a regalia that kind of pimps themselves out to other owners.
No, I mean, that's crude,
but
correct.
Not wrong.
That's what that's basically what they say to it in the show, basically.
Like, yeah, that and I remember Hardy in the one of the original episodes called her Nora the Horror.
Oh my god, that does sound like... Yeah, that sounds about right. It's like...
What?
It's also worth noting that Nora specifically does mean stray. Which, listening to the commentary, Noragami is a show that is called Stray God.
Yeah. And basically the whole point of being a Nora is when a god wants a dirty work done that they don't want their other regalias to do. And she's the first we meet, but she's not the only one, since we'll find out later on. But playing these four, Rabo is played by Mike McFarlane. Kugaha is played by Phil Parsons. Iha is played by Michelle Rojas. And Nora herself is played by Lauren Lander. Mike McFarlane, you've seen him in other roles as John Kirstein from Attack on Titan, Deldro Brody from Blood Blockade Battlefront, and Cole from Show by Rock. Phil Parsons, you've seen as Kenny Ackerman in Attack on Titan, Klaus von Reinhardt in Blood Blockade Battlefront, and Azazel in High School DxD. Michelle Rojas, you've seen as Noragami in Data Life, Ko Yagami in New Game, and Yamato in One Piece. And Lauren Lander, you've seen him as Angelina Hart in Attack on Titan, Luvia Galita Edelfelt in the Freight franchise, Sailor Neptune in the Sailor Moon Viz redub, and I'm going to throw this one in here, Reiko Kujira in Kowloon Generic Romance, and for good reason.
I would like to go first.
Go right ahead.
Okay, so first of all, I need to point out why Ihad starts doing a lot of this, and it's because she... Do you want to know the reason why Bishamon started using Monica more?
Is she lighter?
Kind of. It's because of the giant skirt. There's a giant skirt attached to that armor, and she was tripping over it.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Mobility is a thing.
Which she already has to attend to the giant Goldilocks of hair. So tripping over your hair and your skirt does seem like it would wield tricky results. So
okay,
I see the logic.
Except for here's the thing. We see throughout the show that Bishamon can pin her hair up really high.
Yeah.
So I don't know what the fuck's going on there. But let me give my thoughts on this, because I'll start off with Mike McFarlane as Robbo. Robbo exists. Mike McFarlane's performance exists in this kind of show. That's gonna sound really mean, but here's the thing. He doesn't get to do anything. Like, unfortunately, he just doesn't get to do anything. And all he does is he shows up for 3 episodes. He is fairly menacing. Mike sounds very growly and creepy and all that stuff. But that's about it. There is not a lot of meat to that performance. For him, there's not a lot of meat on that character for him to grip in, and I know Mike is a very talented actor. So, for me, that performance just kind of exists. Going on to Michelle as Iha, I think they do a really good job, though I would say this is probably one of the more green performances I had ever, like, even 10 years later that I've ever heard from Michelle, because Michelle does some really great work. And I don't want to say this was early on in their career, 100%. Because, yeah, they had been doing, like, Fairy Tail and Date A Live at that point, but, like, they had been named characters and things. But I do like them. I really do like their performance. I think that they get that level of IHA's bullshit down and their regret. And I really like the stuff when the Bishamon arc ends, where they start, you know, just being a normal person with all of the other Shinki. Where it's like, I think she writes, like, terrible love stories.
As an aside, Megan, because I know you're here and you'd appreciate it, my first thought upon seeing Aiha as Bishamon's armor is she just turns Bishamon into Saber.
She fucking does. She really fucking does. She really does. So then let's go to Phil as Kugaha. I thought it was fine, to be honest. I thought it hit the notes it needed to. I don't think it was necessarily my favorite performance in the show, nor one of my favorite Phil Parsons performances, especially because, earlier that year, I think we had kind of gotten, like, the quintessential Phil Parsons performance in Blockade Battlefront.
Yeah.
I won't disparage that, but I will also say I personally feel you are underselling Kugaha in this particular film.
Oh, no, I think it's a good performance. I just don't necessarily think it's my favorite performance of Phil Parsons.
Alright. I'll continue.
I think that it is fine. If it's like, hey, I don't feel negatively or super strongly about it. I do think that he nails the part where he finally gets called out for all of his bullshit. Very well. But then, you know, there are also times where I feel like, it's just like, oh, okay. I just, like, it wasn't like my most memorable performance in this show. And I'm trying not to, like, be negative. It's just like, oh, okay. But man, Laura Landis fucking great as Nora. We all know why she's in this. Small independent anime called Attack on Titan that never went anywhere. Being recorded right around then, if you know. No one's ever heard of that. Never went on to have an infuriating final season release schedule, ever.
We don't have enough time in the night. We really don't. I just saw the clock.
I'm making a shit post. But I think she is so exceptionally good in this. She is so fucking creepy. Just like there's almost like a seduction mixed with a childlike wonder in her voice, where it's like, listen, I get it. She's 1,000 years old lolly. But it's played for horror.
Playing that for horror does work a lot better than playing it for unironic titillation.
Yeah, like, there is nothing good that's ever gonna come out of, you know, fucking around with Nora ever in this show. I think to me, one of the best scenes of her is when they are, I think it's in the last episode too, is when Yato finally, you know, kicks her to the curb.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's just like, you know what? No, we're done here. We're done with this. I release you. And there's just like this level of, no, how can you do this to me? We've been together forever. We are always, you know, we're peas in a pod, you'll always need me. And like, there's this level of like creepy attachment that she never wants to let go to. And she's so taunting in everything she does. Because you know she wants to put doubt into Yukine. She wants to make him feel jealous. Because she herself is jealous that Yato has moved on from her, but yet she is well aware that she's just, like, you know, using him too.
I have a question for you because you mentioned reading the manga. I remember once upon a time I tried and failed to start reading the manga after the point of Noragami Arigoto. And I remember reading a few chapters and finding that there was a change made to the anime in comparison to the manga that I actually liked more in the anime. And I want to make sure if I'm not crazy about this.
Yes.
If I remember correctly, Hiyori and Yukine snuck around to see Yato break up with Nora. But
I
in
think
the
so.
anime, Yato brings Yukine to show him he's breaking up with Nora. And I like that a lot more, actually.
It also makes Yukine's arc in the manga go a lot more sourly, because the entirety of the Noragami manga can also be summed up as, God damn it, Yukine.
It feels like a lot of the problems that Yato and Yukine go through is that they are poor communicators in this relationship.
Yes! Poor communication kills in this franchise.
Literally half of the deaths of Bishamon's regalia is because nobody wants to tell anybody what happened.
Or how they feel about things.
Or how they...
Boy howdy, when we get to that section, I have words!
But, yeah.
No, I'm done. Everybody else can go.
I think Mike McFarland is really good playing a 6.5 out of 10 filler character in a 8 to 9 out of 10 quality story. I know that sounds like rude, but I'm like trying to say that I do not think the Rambo stuff is bad. It is average compared to what I feel is a show that's swinging for the fences exceptionally high, which is why I think it makes it stand out. That being said, Mike McFarlane's great as playing this jealous, bitter, fight-sexual ex-boyfriend, and then getting corrupted because he won't get the fight that he wants. Which is usually
he corrupts himself. He corrupts himself to make himself look more sexually appealing as a fight sexual.
So are you saying that letting all of the phantoms inside of his gaping hole is basically a mating ritual?
Anyway.
Well, I was going somewhere.
It's Viagra.
Anyway.
Mike McFarlane's good. Anyways, I also do really like Michelle Rojas as Iha. I want to say, yeah, I think Michelle Rojas sounds pretty good, but I definitely think that for better or for worse, she is a character, even though she is, like, the cause of the drama. She also gets a little lost in the background among some of the other regalias, which there's a lot of really fun
Is it me? Am I the drama?
Is it me? Am I the drama? Yes.
The answer is yes.
But, I gotta say, I was extremely impressed by Phil Parsons' Kugaha, because he's got this level of soft serenity to it, which, by the way, I think this one blew me away when I first heard this performance as Phil Parsons, because back then, I really only knew Phil Parsons for one major role, and that was Nappa. That was Nappa in Dragon Ball Z. That was legitimately...
Bishamon!
That...
Stop it.
I can't even hear modern Nappa anymore without thinking of Team 4-Star Nappa. It's ridiculous.
Oh, Bishamon! Why won't you love me, Bishu?
I'm haunting you, Bishamon!
Bishamon!
God. Anyways, no, the thing
Why won't you call on me?
No. Alright.
You did. You walked into this one.
Look, I need to tip the scales back in my favor. Anyways, so...
You need to tip the scales?
Anyways, Phil's got this level of soft kindness to him that he's unassuming, but he's got... I think I remember in the commentary he was talking about that he's very Jafar-esque. That he's something about that where he's just like the Regals. He's the... what's the meme? He's basically the Grand Vizier that's basically whispering sweet poison in the Emperor's ear, trying to make them distrustful and trying to make shit happen in their favor. And I think there's something about that that's so insidious. But I think, like, one of the defining moments for me is, like, poor Dallas Reed. Precious little flower boy.
Oh, God,
has
that
done
entire
nothing wrong
season.
in his entire life. And it's like, you can tell that, like, this Kugaha guy, he's a little suspect. He's like, your bastard doesn't even remember who you are. Nobody's gonna remember who you are. Why are you even trying, you fucking idiot? No one's gonna remember you. You're better off dead.
I want you to know he
Whoa!
has his arm
Wolves
around
upon
me.
you!
I want you to know he has his arm around me, and he's unfortunately kind of close to my ear while saying this. And I'm a little unsettled.
I'm telling you, Kugaha is like, he whispers sweet poison in your ear.
Stop touching me.
Okay. Anyway, but no, I legitimately love how, like, sinister, maniacal, and eventually obsessive, fixated... He's the guy that prefers the early work of Bishamon, and he's, like, willing to kill to get back to the early days.
It's weird that they equate him with, like, seeing her as a mother and how he wants her to, like, be his mom again, but it's also, like, you're turning her into a child, and that's kind of weird.
Oh, let's look. If we want to talk about this Freudian psychosexual nature of some of the relationships in the show, we can write some papers on that. Or scrolls.
I think Kugaha has an Oedipus complex.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. Oh shit! I didn't think about that.
You're like, yeah, wait!
Which, God, if you want to talk about, like, psychosexual readings that I didn't even think about previously, I was just like, yeah, Nora is basically kind of like a stray, insidious little, like, ghost-like creature. There's some commentary to be made about her basically being...
A child?
Basically, yeah, I guess there is some sort of hidden meaning to the design and the Nora conceptually making her look like a child prostitute.
I mean, this is a very good reason for that, in that if you notice through Yato's backstory, it looks like, I don't know any further than what I see in the anime, but it looks like the two of them were old friends, and not to mention the fact, Regalias, let alone Nora's, don't really age once they die, you know, because they stay the same age as they pass to death. Because and I originally had them on the list, but I had to take them off. That is really Suzuha, because Suzuha, he had been maintaining contact with his girl he saw on the island for like 30 years. As throughout all those 30 years, he was pretty much ageless. So
can I say how fucked up it is that they introduced that whole arc? And the assumption is that this arc is going to be explored a little more, where it's like you set up the fact that the concept of time moving differently for Regalia being forgotten and all that, and you're like, you see he gets the flashback. Suzuha gets the flashback, and you're like, we are going to go somewhere with this character, and with the exploration of that arc. He's dead. He is fucking dead. And I was like, oh.
No, because his death is used to explore something equally as traumatic.
Yeah, again, that's the reason I was gonna put them on this list, but I took them off like not at the last minute, but like when I was trying to streamline this whole thing, because unfortunately they were basically a plot device. That's basically what it was.
It was an effective one, but still. But yeah, I like Rabo, I like Iha, but I think for me the standouts are the evil Kugaha and the very complicated Nora. Lord Landa especially, like, there's something ethereal, ghost-like, and genuinely unsettling. Every time there is a drop of water now, I'm just gonna think, ah, shit, she's right behind me, isn't she?
If that drop of water happens to reverse, then yeah, maybe. Because that's when we're first introduced to her.
But God, yeah, what a creepy, unsettling character. But I really do enjoy her kind of complicated but equally compelling fucked up relationship she has with Yato. It's like, you two are so bad for each other, but you don't know how to quit each other because it's comfortable and familiar. And a lot of Yato's growth as a person is learning to let go and learning to make the steps to change and cut toxic people out of your life, even if you do have a long-standing history with each other. So you know what? Proud of you, Yato, for taking positive steps at reaffirming your mental health. Good on you, buddy.
Alright, Steph, you wanna go? Oh, sorry.
Sure. I mean, I'm probably gonna be brief on most of these. Like, I'll start with Michelle because Michelle didn't have a ton to do. Iha was like plot device kind of.
Yeah.
Iha was kind of essentially a plot device to kind of help push some of the Bishamon arc along, and inadvertently be a co-conspirator for Kugaha. But Michelle, I did enjoy just Michelle's performance. I think this was fairly early on for Michelle Rojas as well, if I recall correctly.
It was,
yeah.
It was probably not like their first performance, but I definitely think
that's why I say early.
Mm-hmm.
I would say early. Both Phil Parsons and Mike McFarland I enjoyed a lot, for very different reasons. Like Mike's performance for Robbo, they were both of them are more like subtle, subdued in a way, except Mike is just like he goes like full like crazy like attack, and it can kind of get very chilling at times from Robbo. And then you have Kugaha and Phil Parsons, where his is more subdued, but in a way where it's like unassuming. And that's the whole, and that helps helps Kugaha fly under the radar, with everything going on Bishamon. But I want to highlight Lauren Landa here, because I had never heard, when the time this first season of Noragami happened, I had never heard of Lauren Landa before in my life. I didn't know who this was. And obviously I know more since then. But with Nora, Lauren is just, she has that childlike quality, but it's like very, very soft, very, very subtle. And it's just, I like how you guys were saying that it plays more into like horror elements, because I 100% get that. Like, it's very like chilling and kind of just sickening at times too, some of the things that Nora was do and say. It like her conversations with Yato, her conversations with Yukine, her conversations with Hiyori, like all of it. Oh my god, I'm tired. All of it is just like so like a sickly sweet kind of vibe, and Lauren Landa gives that off very, very nicely, and I enjoyed every second of it. But no, yeah, I think with the exception of Nora, everybody else was fine. Like, Nora, I think, was the standout of this section 100%.
Oh, yeah.
I will also give shout-outs to, while I do love that he is a very, like, sinister, like, snake-like, I think I remember Phil describing it as our, like, the snake in the Garden of Eden, kind of, in the way that he was portraying Kugaha. In that he's, like, this very, like, soft, but, like, seductive level of, like, sinister, despite the fact that he's basically, like, the ultimate gaslight gatekeep girl boss. And then and then he just evolves into, like, okay, he gets really pissed off after he loses his hand, and then he just kind of becomes, like, a maniacal, bitter asshole. He's like, ha! Eat shit, Yukine! Your master sucks, and you suck too! Eat it! And then he gets his ass rocked.
Yeah, and then Yukine kicks his ass.
Cause Hiyori's like, Yukine, Yato picked you and only you. He loved you. Unlike Bishamon, you're unlike Kugaha, whose parents don't love them anymore.
But yeah, good section, good characters, good stuff.
Yeah. Just to go through real quick. I don't know like how much of the manga came out at the time the first season of Noragami was recorded, but I would think Mike McFarlane at some point realized Rabo was just, as much as he plays a part of Yao's backstory, the character was just kind of there. So that's probably because a lot of directors will try to slot themselves in sometimes. And I think this is where he chose his mark because Rabo doesn't get much to do and it's kind of dies in the end after all of that. Don't know if it provides any real weight. Well, he provides some weight, but it's kind of lightweight. Michelle Rojas says, yeah, I agree. They were kind of green at the time because I remember the first thing I heard in was Stay Alive, but that was before I found out it was actually Good Luck Girl I heard them in, and Good Luck Girl was kind of a wonky comedy at the time.
Oh god, was this back when Date Alive only had like a season in it or two?
Yeah, it was the first season. It was like, believe it or not, over 10 years ago.
Jesus
anyway,
Christ.
Yeah. So when they came onto the scene, they were just starting to come up at the time. I mean, they were pretty good. The only real thing about IHOP being a kind of little plot device is that IHOP got more screen time than the other two characters I initially had on the list. That being Suzuha and Manabu in season 1, because they provided some weight to a couple of the characters in their respective arcs, but I kind of didn't want to waste my time with that. And I know this episode's already gonna go long as is, so shout outs to Austin and Dallas.
Oh yeah,
Houston.
The Austin Tyndall had a really good little arc. Where Yato basically played the bet on him being on him not becoming the friend that tells you not to come to school tomorrow.
Yeah, and if we ever do get a season 3, I hope Houston Hayes comes up from Sentai Records. That way we can have what I like to call the Texas Trio.
Oh my gosh! Shut up! Shut up!
No, I will not. Thank you very much. As for Kugaha, but I can't wait. Okay, Blood Blockade Battlefront was before the second season, right?
I think it was that spring. Yeah,
I think so.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow, that was a close one. I like filling this role. Of course, I liked him better as Klaus, but he manages to pull some weight as Kugaha. Yeah, Kugaha, yeah, it did kind of devolve like towards the end into like it started as an Oedipus complex. It becomes like no more. Notice me, mommy, please. Which Shiato really points out, but I hate the fact you make me realize it was an Oedipus complex.
Next
You're
section.
welcome.
You're hanging out with a lot of people that have film and literature degrees. Like, we know this stuff.
And somebody who's really into MILFs.
Hey!
Okay. Oh, you meant Andrew.
Yeah.
What? Oh, I'm sorry. Did you think that you were so important that your MILF thing overseeded my MILF thing? Look, for the sake of fairness, we all love MILFs in this house.
I'm gonna mute this mic so Andrew shuts the fuck
We
up.
all.
Anyway, while those two argue in the background, yeah, I mean, Kugaha does his bit, like, he gets cast to the side into the ether, lands of course back right down to Earth, quite literally, of course.
Conveniently lands back in Japan. Conveniently.
Yeah, and then we only see him again for like one episode in the Ebisu arc, and I really wish I could have known more about that character, because I mean I could get an understanding of where he might have come from, but because the whole restraint thing that Yukine tried, and it kind of failed, because of course with the restraint you have to know to have to invoke the person's name, which apparently he doesn't go by Kugaha. Well, he didn't go by Kugahara anyway. He had another name. What that name is, I do not know. But of course, the standout here is Lauren Landis Nora because, well, see, I've been familiar with a lot of Lauren Landis work. I think there was even some roles I was familiar with before Noragami. I can't remember what. But to me, personally,
Attack on Titan, Jamal.
Before that, though.
Was it Madoka Magica?
That may have been it, but I did not watch enough of it. Anyway, in the time since, I kind of come to realize that when it comes to voicing certain roles, Lauren Landis, the voice of hot buttered sex, to which that's why.
Okay.
Whoa! Let me finish before you interrupt me. Which is why I brought up Kowloon Generic Romance, because one of the things is having to go from that type of voice to Nora is like you said, it's kind of tiddling in its own way. But the fact that she has to put on airs as a childish type of voice was a little unusual. And then I remembered, oh yeah, she's also in Tony Kawa, and that's also a youngish kind of voice too. But as Tsukasa also has to put on airs, especially around her husband. Also, I tried to find that little post he did in Discord about Kowloon Generic Romance, but I could not for the love of me find it. Because I remember you said that with Lauren Lando, that was the hardest thing you ever heard. And I thought that made perfect sense in this context because, you know, there's enticing and then there's enticing scary. And that's what Nora is, basically. Especially when she's charming Yato down in the underworld, posed against her katana. Something that's her katana. And I thought, Jesus Christ, you're just enjoying the hell out of this, aren't you, Lauren? And I met her too. She's a pretty nice woman. She's a very versatile actress. So she really is the standout of this section here. All right, Andrew, what was it you were gonna say before you interrupted me?
I was gonna say y'all are telling me to behave, and you're saying she has the voice of hot buttered sex while we're talking about a scary little fucking like child ghost prostitute. That's all I wanted to say.
It's how she spins the voice that makes the difference. But also, if you really think I'm gonna deal with Nora, hell no. As soon as I see it, I'd run away. So
I feel like how do I swing this?
Don't.
I mean, you are correct. I should not be swinging this. But the reality is, I've already swung my blade, and I'm coming for the kill. If you touch her, you'd probably get rust.
So, are we all good to move on to the next section?
Yes, we are.
Alright, this is gonna be a fun one, as if the last section wasn't already. So we get to the Ebisu arc, and Ebisu is one of the 7 gods of fortune. But Ebisu is hiding a little secret. See, the thing about it is, in the Ebisu arc, he's a conjurer of phantoms, having suffered numerous deaths and reincarnations trying to tame phantoms to help maintain humanity, basically. And he does this through the use of masks. However, it got to the point that not only did he have to use a whole bunch of Nora to achieve his ends, he decides to find the one tool that helps him achieve his objectives, that being the locution brush. I thought it was elocution brush when I first heard it. The gods, as a result, summon a soliloquy to which he's suspected to have been the conjurer, which eventually turns out to be true, and orders an edict to kill him. Because the gods are fed up this time. They decide no more, even though at the end he dies regardless and gets reincarnated. He goes
explodey.
He turned into a red-filled water balloon.
A blood pinata.
Baby, you're a firework.
No, no. Corner.
Somehow it wasn't me this time.
Jesus Christ. Anyway, he gets reincarnated to a younger version of himself who we see in flashbacks, but we don't get to meet until the very end. And before Ebisu died, he had his last wish granted by Yato, which was
I thought that was really cute and bittersweet.
Yeah, to eat at the Olive Tavern. I think it was a Hamburg steak, if I remember correctly.
It was a Hamburg steak.
The good old Hamburg steak, baby.
Bug.
What is that? What was the ugh? She didn't even say anything bad.
I didn't say I said bug. So yeah, and it turns out that he has decided to hide Iyami, his blessed vessel and exemplar, after the results of his previous incarnation. After trying to get the elocution brush from what apparently turned out to be his mother, Izanami. Izanami, the queen of the underworld, had sired Ebisu with Lord Izanaki, but abandoned him for reasons unknown because the anime doesn't get far enough. In case you're watching this on video, you're probably wondering, wait a minute, why does she look like Hiyori? And there's a very good reason for that, to which I will get to a little later, especially pertaining to her actress.
Beauty is in the eye of the beholder.
Yeah, basically. And then, so basically, Ebisu sets out to obtain the locution brush through an unknown person we call Father, who we don't know.
There's this asshole.
Who we didn't know the identity of, apparently, until the last episode.
Until the last minute. There's a difference. I feel
the last bit of the last
would
episode.
Be less mad about no Noragami season 3 if they didn't throw that scene in there at the end.
Yeah, what a cliffhanger. Yeah,
fuck you!
What?
Oh, you motherfucker!
Double meaning!
Oh, I even think I am not. Look,
I didn't realize you
look,
did. That was an accident, apparently.
It's 10:30, and I leave me the fuck alone, please.
No.
Anyway, so yeah, we find out Father is a high school student named Koto Fujisaki, or at least disguised as a high school student. Unfortunately, that's all we know for now. We know that he's Yato's father, in quotation marks. I don't know how that works.
And he kissed Hiyori, that bitch.
You know, it's funny, when I was gathering headshots, because I have this little character, guys. When I was gathering headshots from Anime Planet, I was reading comments. More people were upset about him kissing Hiyori than they were about the twist at the end.
You know where fucking priorities lie.
Yeah,
that's funny.
Shippers, man.
Yeah, rightfully so, especially how that episode played out. But playing these four, Ebisu is played by John Bergmeyer. His young reincarnation is played by Afia. Izanami is played by Rachel Robinson, and Fujisaki is played by Cliff Chapin. Now, as for what these people have voiced, John Bergmeyer, you've heard as Claude Jean Lemire in I'm the Villainous, so I'm Taming the Final Boss. But you would better know him as Shigure Soma in Fruits Basket and Seishi Moroi in Shiki.
I was gonna say, everybody knows him as everyone's favorite motherfucker, Shigure Soma.
Oh, he fucked over his mama, right? Alfia, you've heard as Ryo Nakamura in Assassination Classroom. Rika Furude in Higurashi When They Cry Go, and Sotsu, the remake. Agane Mizuno and Tsukigakure, but also you would see them as Ayu, one of Lord Tenjin's regalia in season 1. Surprise, surprise. Rachel Robinson, you've heard as both in Aka, 30 Territory Inspection Department. Garaka Zelt in The White with the Red Hair, and Namazuo Toshiro in Tokenwanbu Hanamaru. Clifford Chapin, if you watch his podcast enough, you know who he is. He's Ryusui Nanami in the Dr. Stone franchise. He's Himo in Frieren Beyond Journey's End. And, of course, he's Katsuki Bakugo in My Hero Academia.
This is not... Father is not what Himmel the hero.
God damn it!
It's not what Himmel would have wanted.
I bet
He is like Nega Himmel.
I bet he wouldn't even eat elf pussy.
Of course. Of course you would go there, Andrew.
Andrew!
Why are you booing? Why are you booing him? He's right.
Exactly.
That's why I'm booing him!
He's like DJ Khaled level of evil. He would never go down on her.
Andrew, shut the fuck up!
To paraphrase Rick Ross, Andrew's gonna knock that pussy out like Fight Night.
God.
So Ebisu.
I'm not gonna lie, I wasn't sure if I would make that joke, but here we are. Yeah, Ebisu, I think I'll go first on this one. John Bergmeyer, I don't always get to talk about John Bergmeyer, but when I do, I mean, of course he's very distinct, and I really do like his performances. I haven't really found a bad John Bergmeyer role yet. I think it's funny because he really plays into Ebisu's dynamic very much. Like, because Ebisu can be a bit oblivious at times, especially. Oh Jesus Christ! Why do I have to remember that? Especially when he meets Yato again in the underworld, and they're talking about knots, and I'm like, what? Wait, they make John Bergmeyer say what? And yeah, they will talk about knots, and Yato is being sarcastic about and talking about bondage knots. And I'm like, wait, okay. But I think for the brevity he kind of provides to this character, there's also the serious moments too, especially when he's like being hospitalized after being blighted by his phantoms. And trying to take control of the situation when he knows he really can't handle it. And I really think John kind of puts that perspective into it very well. I mean, like I said, like Ebisu is subtle but unique, and when he's not being subtle, is like, you know, he has the work done for him, but he just wants to push the boundaries further, no matter how many times he and his reincarnations have tried. I mean, Alfia U is the young version. For Alfia, it was kind of a breath of fresh air because, well, they like voicing younger versions of other characters, they said, because it allows her to stretch her range, especially in a way like she would never usually pursue. And, you know, like I said, like a lot of people have been watching this show since they got casted. Alfia started watching from season 1. The moment it got licensed, not even dubbed, when it got licensed, like I think she started reading the manga and everything. Like, even met the creator of Studio Bones, which this is animated by, and introduced themselves. She kind of just panicked a little, trying to speak Japanese to them, but they realized, you know, that he realized that she's the voice of what they call Chibi Ebisu, and Chibi Ebisu is, Chibi Ebisu is a fun character. The way I don't know, it's just really adorable the way Alfia plays her, and the fact that even on the commentary, she too was also hoping for season 3. Like, she's like, we're gonna get a season 3, we're gonna get a season 3.
Everybody wants a season 3.
Everybody wants a season 3, but but you should have heard the commentary. She asked, and then Kugaha just nods in line for no. And I thought that was the funniest thing I've ever seen. Now, as for Rachel Robinson's Izanami, the reason as Andrew alluded to, is because when you're approaching Izanami, she takes according to Ebisu, she takes the form of the person loves the most. For Yato, it's Hiyori, and for Ebisu, it's the lady who runs the Olive Tavern. Which, that was kind of random, but hey.
I think it's specifically somebody you hold dear was the way
you hold dear.
It's not necessarily...
And for him, it was the lady who gave him hamburger steaks.
Look, I get the feeling that in Japan, it's like if you are a salaryman who like works the 9 to 5 or works like at a black company or something like that, you need that one joint down the street that brings you comfort, joy, and beer. And I feel like
that's why Larry's Gym is a diner.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
that just hit you, didn't it?
Yeah.
I that reference gonna go over my head anyway. But yeah, so we see her first taking the form of Hiyori before taking the form of the lady from the Olive Tavern. And then we get to see her true form, which is equally unnerving and terrifying.
Oh, let's face it. Half the people we know online would look at that skeleton lady with the hairs that grip you all over in bondage and still would.
Yeah, I know. I'm talking to one right now. His name's Andrew.
Okay.
She got you on that one.
You know what? I know you.
She's a MILF. Okay. She's a MILF, Andrew.
Okay, look, you Uno reversed me. And you're right, but also fuck you.
Andrew the classy Spartan. You're right, but also fuck you.
I jump her bones.
Someone sleeping on the couch tonight.
I've accepted that.
You could use your dick like a mallet on her ribs and play her like a xylophone.
What in the... What the...
I want to go to bed now.
So...
Anyway, so yeah.
So would she get off to the skeleton dance?
Andrew, shut the fuck up and stop making this worse.
Dude, I got 11 days to edit this. Please don't make it any worse than it already is.
He just walked away. He's laughing. He's walked away. Please.
Anyway, Rachel, the lyrics links herself. Yeah, she manages to play the terrified aspect very well. But like I said, I'm going to try my best to find a headshot of her true form. But you're going to see Hiyori Iki for the time being. And for good reason, too, which we'll get to later on. But, yeah, Rachel did a very good job for it. And it's funny, because even though she doesn't get surprisingly, she doesn't get as much screen time in those episodes, but she plays a huge part in the episode arc. Holding those locution brushes and just wishing for a friend. I swear, it's like,
it's
they kind of reversed...
They portray her less as, like, the antagonist of that arc, and kind of more like a force of nature.
I'm gonna be honest, I never thought of her as an antagonist, because, she's queen of the underworld. Yeah, she's not the... Especially in the MCU arc, she's not the antagonist of this arc.
She is a force of nature through and through.
She's a fortune... Exactly.
The big bad is fucking father.
And also that guy with the fucking angelic nuke. Which I think
you mean J. Michael Tatum?
Yes, J. Michael Tatum.
Yes.
Oh yeah, that's just Takumi Kazuki, the Thunder God.
Yep. I mean,
also, his regalia is also, like, objectively the hottest regalia in the show.
The Lightning Dragon?
Yeah!
I still remember in the other episodes you talked about this. That whole arc when Takumi Kazuchi brings down the Xbox Red Ring of Death and Yato just slices.
It's true.
Hey, man.
Shut up.
Hey, Megan's words, not mine.
No,
I'm just quoting.
It's fucking true. It is the Xbox Red Ring of Death.
And as someone who's owned a couple Xboxes, I would know. But yeah, that whole thing where he just pretty much he dies, that was really heartbreaking. Because, I mean, he did wrong, but he did nothing wrong, really, if you think about it. Because as Naito said in season 1, the gods are not held to the same standard as humans, whereas they do what they believe is right. So, what Ebisu did, he did on his own terms. It's just other people saw it as wrong to him, so...
Basically, you got framed for somebody else's crime.
As far as we're aware, yeah, so...
Anyways, yee.
But yeah, and then there's this asshole to which... I mean, obviously you can look two ways by it, but the second way is... We see him at the end with the locution brush. We learn that he's basically Yato's father, in quotes.
Oh my god, I need to check something quick.
I'm not gonna lie, I will allow a little bit of spoiler because I don't know if we're... look, stranger things have happened and a lot of seasons of other shows have been popping up. We may get a season 3, we may not, but I do want to know what's going on with Father.
It's been 10 years.
It's a lot.
It's been 10 years. The likelihood keeps getting slimmer and slimmer every day.
It's not 0, but
It's
it's
like
at least
decimal point.
It's at least slimmer, especially because I believe contextually we are covering the show as it has been removed off of Crunchyroll.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll get to that later.
But yes, this is it's a pre-Bakugo. This is a pre-Bakugo Clifford Chapin.
Pre-Bakugo. Also, on top of that, if I remember correctly, the manga just wrapped last year. So.
It just ended, I believe, a couple of months ago yeah.
Like, it was relatively recently. Let's go with that.
Yeah, so, I mean, I had to put him on the list. We could not talk about him because, as far as we know, he's instrumental behind everything that's happened with Yato so far, but... Again,
I legit would have been less mad if they didn't put that stinger at the end, because that stinger that's like, what the fuck?
I will admit, half the time when I was watching this for Double Talk, I may have had on the background or wasn't really paying attention to his scenes, but when you kind of see him in the intro of the OP, you kind of know something's bound to happen.
Well,
and I would have been less...
I'm just glad Hiyori's friend got with a guy that's actually good for her and not fat fuckboy.
Yeah, fast. Yeah,
I love that. Oh my god, you're also into the 100 Archdemons or some shit.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
Anyway.
I'm glad they can Fujoshi out together.
Who wants to go next?
I will, since I'm being a terrible, horrible human being.
No, that's Fujisaki.
Yeah, who
that
I'll
is
talk about
correct.
first. Yeah, fuck Fujisaki. All my homies hate Fujisaki. If you've read the manga, you know exactly why we hate Fujisaki. Clifford Chapin, I think, is an incredibly inspired choice to have played him.
Yeah.
If we ever got more seasons of this, I would be enthralled to hear Clifford Chapin play this character because of the double-sided aspect to his character where, you know, he is playing the nice guy, but at the same time, you know he's evil. And that final shot of him, when they are walking away and his friend's like, what's going on? He's like, oh, it's nothing. Good shit. Rachel Robinson does a good job when she actually gets to come out as Izanami. I think it's a very inspired choice to play this giant creepy motherfucker. You know, Izanami is mythologically the mother of Ebisu as well as the mother of Amaterasu. There's a lot of stuff there, and if you think it's weird that Hiyori, she takes the face of Hiyori, Amaterasu also looks like Hiyori in the manga. Just saying. I think she's a really cool choice to play this character. I like the vocal work on her and mixing with Hiyori's actress.
Oh yeah, that was creepy as shit, but effective.
Oh yeah.
Speaking of creepy as shit, but also it's time to say the thing that I was joking about pre-recording. I would like to point out that she sends the hose after you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And at one point they're eating her, and then they're going to eat me. The only thing I thought of in that entire scene of the hose eating Bishamon was going, man, if Andrew was in there, he'd be moaning.
Okay, look, I had to hold myself back watching that scene because all these demonic naked women are literally licking Bishamon all over, and I'm like, okay.
And
Steph's
you
watching.
wish that was you. Just admit it, you horny fucking freak. Come on. Dude, they were talking about Shibari binding and stuff in that arc. Listen,
that whip is literally snaking around her entire body as she's...
Listen, Andrew, if it wasn't for the bugs, you would 100% stay down there, and we all know it.
I can't be horny. My daughter's around the corner.
Never stopped you when your son was around. Anyway.
I need to go see what she's after.
Okay, go take care of my niece and give her kisses. Give her kisses for me.
It's fine.
Okay.
Give her kisses.
Okay, so yeah, continue.
I really like Afia as young Ebisu. I think she's absolutely adorable. But there's also that I want to talk about one of the like most horrifying moments in this whole show that involves baby Ebisu. And that is the Shrine Maiden Regalias just basically telling a small child, it's okay if you die.
Yeah.
You shouldn't want to live. You'll just get reincarnated. It's okay to kill yourself.
That does seem like that would stunt a child's growth, even if it is a godly child.
Yeah, and it's also kind of this like we kind of get that abject horror put into that with how Kugaha wants to make Bishamon reincarnate so that he can control what she thinks. And you kind of see that with those women with baby Ebisu. But I also really love the part where the innocence in Afia's performance, where it's like, hey, crazy lady.
Hey, crazy chick.
Hey, crazy chick.
Who told you that was my name?
Do that name, Mr. Yato.
Oh,
And,
did
like,
he?
And then, like, she's just petting the lion. It's so fucking cute. I love it. And then, I am a slut for all John Bergmeyer performances. Having him play Ebisu, to which I've got to just say it, he plays Ebisu with so much autistic riz.
Wait, can you repeat that for me?
Autistic riz.
Okay, I just want to make sure I heard that right.
No, she's cooking. She's cooking. Please cook for us.
I'm sorry, there is no way, shape, and form that the Ebisu that John Bergmeyer plays doesn't have autism. And I say that affectionately. Like, he has no social cues. He's very blunt. He has a hyperfixation. Like, obviously autism is a spectrum, and I'm not doing this to demean anybody, but I like that level of just inhuman understanding and how it's affected his life because he is such a stunted god.
But it's not that he lacks emotion. He would sacrifice stupid
Yeah, no, it's not that he lacks emotion, it's just that it's been ingrained in him so much that, you can just die and come back. There's no point in having a will to live until Yato meets him and gives him the first will to live, because, when Yato dies, Yato go bye-bye.
Mm-hmm.
And there's this level, I hear the baby, and there's this level of just, like, him being so reliant on other people to make up his mind for him. And, like, it's clear that even, like, in some cases, like, it's clear his Shinki do mean things to him, but not totally. To which, by the way, go fuck yourself, Nora, for letting Aaron Dismuke get ripped apart.
Oh, that was brutal, yeah.
Yeah. So, overall, I really like this section. I love a lot of the people in here, especially John, Afia, and Cliff.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it's me with the Ebisu stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. God.
Did Andrew go yet?
You went, right, baby? With the Ebisu stuff?
I was mostly just going off, I think, bantering about everybody else, so I think I will just quickly just say, I really liked Izanami, I like Rachel Robinson, I like everything that they did with mixing with Hiyori's voice. Fujisaki as Clifford Chapin, he seems like a normal good boy until he is not. I don't have the hate and vitriol for this character yet, as the manga readers do, because I haven't read the manga, but after this episode, I absolutely want to read the manga. I love Baby Ebisu, or Chibi Ebisu, as I believe Afia was talking to, one of the founders of Bones about, like, getting to play Chibi Ebisu at a con and having to explain that. I was like, oh, that's fun. Afia does a very good job, sounds sweet, but very distant, which I think is a very interesting approach to that character. And I think, Megan, you are absolutely completely on the money with describing John Bergmeyer's Ebisu as being a man with autistic riz. I think that's pretty on the money. It's pretty funny, but he's very matter-of-fact he's business-like. He's very corporate business-like. That's why I described, like, the Olive Tavern as, like, the salaryman sanctuary away from the office, which is, like, what I think that place becomes to him. And I think his arc is tragic. His emotions, like everything John's giving to Ebisu is genuinely heartbreaking and really compelling to watch it unfold. And I was really impressed by this performance of his too. I like this group.
Oh boy. I'm gonna get the easy ones out of the way first. I actually have no notes for Rachel. I forgot we were talking about Rachel as Izanami.
Because you kind of thought that was gonna go into Hiyori.
No, I kind of thought we just weren't gonna talk about Izanami in general, to be honest with you. But, I mean, I also kind of forgot how much of a decent player Izanami is during the Ebisu arc. So that's on me. But I did like Rachel's performance, and also how fun and creepy it is to coincide with Hiyori, and just the mixing of the two voices and how creepy and subtle it is. I just love it. No notes for me. Althea as Baby Sue. Baby Sue is very sweet and adorable, and it has this childlike innocence, but it also has at points a slightly mature tone. Like, because we were just talking about, like, him talking to Bishamon after he went to the Olive Tower, and he's just like, yeah.
Thanks, crazy chick.
I appreciate you. And he still has the mature tendencies of what older Ebisu has, but he's still a kid.
But it's also clear that, like, the guidance of the god must be taken by somebody that truly understands and has his best interests at heart. Which is why it's nice that, like, he cares for his old retainer, and then his new one basically is, like, the one he sacrificed himself for, so he could live.
Right.
Which I thought that was very charming in of itself. I also kind of love how, like, Yato's sneaking him out of Takamagahara, where literally Hiyori and Yukine are just like, is that who I think it is?
It's like, what was that?
Hey, did you see Yato and Ebisu? Shit, it was them.
Kazuma, he raided my room.
He stole my cash.
He stole my wallet and my clothes.
I kind of love the fact that throughout the series, Yato is a guy that is trying to do his best and be a better person, but he's
still the worst.
He's also kind of the worst. Like, they're literally making jokes about the fact that he has, like, ex-lovers and, like, girls on the side, and it's like, you're a terrible influence to Yukine. He can't be corrupted.
That's how we got introduced to Kofuku, of all things, too.
Oh, yeah.
Like, so many ex-lovers. Anyway, yeah, Althea was adorable and cute. Fucking Fujisaki.
Oh, man.
This bitch. Fujisaki is the reason why I'm so upset there's no season 3. Because I obviously want to know what the fuck this dude's deal is. But Cliff, I love Clifford Chapin's take on it. Because again, like we were talking about, this is early Clifford Chapin. So we haven't hit the Bakugo Angry Rage yet. But Cliff is still able to keep a lot of, for all intents and purposes, right? Fujisaki is a normal teenager. For all intents and purposes. It's only in that last, like, 30 seconds is where we get father, right? So for the moments where he's, like, a normal teenage boy, like, hey, it's kind of unassuming. You wouldn't, like, think anything of it. And then you get to that last little 30 seconds where it's a subtle enough change where it's the change in the tone and, like, and how he presents himself is so subtle. And it's enough so that you can tell something is off about this guy now. And I like that little nuanced subtlety that in that small little moment that Cliff was able to bring to Fujisaki. And So, the Humble Bumble had this thing, I think like a month or so ago, where they did a bunch of manga, including, I believe, the entirety of the Noragami manga. So I have the entirety of the Noragami manga now.
I will steal your tablet once you are far enough.
I need an SD card for my tablet first. But this bitch is the reason why I want to read the manga now. This fucking bitch, because I need to know his goddamn deal. But I think Cliff did a very good job. Again, normal teenage Fujisaki's just unassuming. You wouldn't think anything of it. It's just that little subtlety at the last little bit of the second season where it's like, fuck, there's something happening here. And
That boy ain't right.
That boy ain't right. Then there's John Berkmeyer as Big Ebisu. For the most part, John plays Ebisu as this kind of like, not solemn is the word I wrote down, but it's not the correct word either. If that makes sense. Like, Ebisu is, yeah, I think autistic is probably the right word, to be honest with you. Is the right descriptor, because Ebisu doesn't quite understand, like, he doesn't really understand social cues, he doesn't understand certain things, including, like, you know, death, of all things. But that's also because Ebisu reincarnates so frequently. So, of course, he's not going to quite understand things throughout the whole course of, like, his several lives. So, it's very interesting to see John.
I say with full sincerity, I feel like having a much larger understanding about the autism, ADHD, social spectrums, unironically makes us better at media criticism.
Yeah. No, 100%. But, I think what I find also interesting for John is that later on, as the arc continues onwards, and the more he interacts with Yato, his conversation with Yato start kind of having an effect on Ebisu to the point where he's like, I may be used to dying so frequently and reincarnating so often, but I'm not ready to give up this version of me yet. Like, Yato gives Ebisu a reason to live, essentially, in this life. Which makes his nice little tomato exploding juice thing all the more sad, and especially more devastating to Yato in his eyes, because that's one of...
Yeah.
Because for Yato, he was determined, because Yato, this is something he has chosen to do, not because his father wanted him to do it. While it initially was like, your father wants you to go rescue this conjurer, sure. But eventually Yato's like, I have decided that I'm going to get this guy out of here. I have decided I'm going to fulfill this guy's wish. I'm doing this as my choice, not my father's. And it became all the more devastating when Yato was like, what is it you want? There's got to be something you want to do still. You can't give up. And Ebisu's like, I want to go to Olive Tavern and have a nice meal from there. He's like, okay, I'm going with it. Let's go. So
Fuck it, we go.
Fuck it, we're going. We're taking that as motivation. And so it makes the scene after the reincarnation kind of all the more bittersweet between Yato and Baby Sue, where Yato sneaks him out, but he takes him to the Olive Tavern because that is something he wanted. He wanted to fulfill that wish. No matter what happened, even if Ebisu...
It wasn't technically who it was.
Correct. He still wanted to be able to fulfill that wish for Ebisu, and just as like a kind of like a posthumous parting words kind of deal. Granted, this kind of leads more into Yato a bit, but I also think it's very poignant when Yato talks about how he's basically he's mourning the Ebisu that's gone now.
I think it also kind of feels like a lot of what he's wearing in that whole thing where he's taking Baby Sue is basically like a suit for a wake.
Yeah.
He still Cosmo's clothes, essentially. But yeah, that parallel is very accurate, honestly. So he's kind of mourning the Ebisu that he knew, and as much as like this Ebisu is still here, but it's not the Ebisu that Yato knew. Which kind of makes it all the more interesting and intriguing, I think. But definitely John's performance is very, very interesting because there's a lot. I'm tired.
Yeah, I think we're all tired.
I'm tired.
Yeah.
Because there is a lot of... For John, it's very subtle. It's very subtle. It's very... Not monotone. Maybe deadpan a little bit might be the right word here. However, it starts to grow more and more the longer he's with Yato. And I think John portrayed those emotional beats very, very well because of it.
Hey, so everybody went?
Hey.
I believe.
Yes, you're good. You're good.
Alright, cool. So yeah, ooh, thank you for that conversation, man. That was a lot. And I mean, that was a lot to take out of us. That was a lot to take out of Ebisu, but I think we can talk. We can move on to talk about some other gods. So we're actually gonna pair these decks four together. For very specific reasons. So we have more gods of the Regalias. Starting off, we have speaking of Ebisu, Lady Kofuku Ebisu, the her Regalia Daikoku. Now, Kofuku, okay, her true identity is the god of poverty, but she borrows the name Ebisu. They're not related by any chance, in case you're wondering. But she takes the name. She borrows the name Ebisu to hide her disguise as a god. Disguised as the god of poverty. Trust me, we will get more into this later on. So she's basically the old equator to Yato's. Kind of dotes on him a bit to the point that her Regalia Daikoku kind of pushes over on Yato because he believes that she's he knows that he's taking advantage of her. Will stop at nothing for his lady in waiting. When his name is called out, he takes the form of a laced fan and has the ability to summon vents. Of course, being the goddess of poverty, Kofuku has the ability to open up vents that can unintentionally release phantoms.
Whoops.
And can also predict where vents will open next. But man, she causes more trouble than she does. I'll get more into that later. And then on the other end, we also have Lord Tenjin, who is, I don't want to say acquaintance. They're not rivals, but they're not enemies to Yato. He has plenty of regalia, with the exception of one, Tsuyu, who's the spirit of a plum tree, who longed to seek Lord Tenjin's companionship. But anyway, that's enough about her. Lord Tenjin is the god of education, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, he's like the god of education and learning.
Yeah, I forget the full name they use for him, but we learned that he's a god of education. He educates the main three on how to go about their lives, especially when Hiyori becomes a phantom, a half phantom. But we'll get more into that later. Meanwhile, we come into possession of one of his regalia, Mayu. Previously, she was Yato's regalia for about 3 months, and then she decides to quit on him, to which, when the regalia quits, they get unnamed by their master in hopes of being accepted by another master. In which, if you don't get unnamed and you do get named by another master, while you're being named by one already, you become a Nora, so you gotta be careful when you're doing that. But Mayu is very shrewd and very to the point, especially when it comes to Yato, because she knows that Yato is pretty much nothing with her, but also nothing without her. And she works. We see her in the first season, helping Yato with his mission to prevent Phantom that's causing the mass suicides. Through that we get Yato's motivation for how the godhood works, basically. Basically, like I said, when it comes to gods and humans, gods don't exactly have a set of morals. They do whatever they believe is right, and she kind of takes offense to what Yato is doing, really. So, but she comes to help him in the end, especially when Yukine is being possessed by a phantom and has to have an ablution, which requires 3 regalia. But again, we'll get more into that later. But playing these 4. Kofuku is played by Alexis Tipton. Her regalia Daikoku is played by Ian Sinclair. Lord Tenjin is played by Sean Hennigan. And Mayu, FKA Tomine, is voiced by Leah Clark. Alexis Tipton, you've heard as Kurumi Tokisaki, aka Nightmare in Data Life. Karen Himemiya and Makiin, 2 main losing heroines, Mei Hatsume in My Hero Academia. Vince Moke Reiju in One Piece, and Mocha Akashi in Rosario and Vampire. And there's a very good reason I bring up some of those roles. Ian Sinclair, you've heard as Dallas Genward in Bakano. Bardroy in Black Butler, Hajime Sugoroku in Nambaka, Brooke in One Piece, and of course Dandy in Space Dandy, because why not, commentary? Sean Hennigan, you've heard as Maiza Avaro in Bakano, M in the Empire of Corpses, Chisama in Mushishi, and Gold D. Roger in One Piece. And Leah Clark, you've heard as Yukiko Kansaki in Assassination Classroom, Minatsuki Takumi in Deadman Wonderland, Amaryllis in Dr. Stone New World, and Minami Toba in Laid Back Camp. So, which pairing do y'all want to take first?
I forgot that Sean Hennigan was in Bakano.
I would say probably Suyu and Tenjin, because they kind of have less to do than the other 2.
Alright, I like Leah Clark as Mayu. I think she does a good job. I enjoy her presence. I think she does a good job being the bitter ex of Yato, more or less.
She's not that bitter, though.
Okay.
If anything, Yato's the bitter ex in the relationship here.
You're not wrong. Okay, I guess she's kind of like enjoying her best, like,
She's enjoying her best life.
I think I was trying to say Instagram white girl era is...
What? Oh, Andrew, keep in mind you're in a room full of white girls right now. Well, white people, I mean. Pretend I ain't not say that, okay?
Okay. See, so, like... Oh, okay.
Moving on.
There's no good segue there. I also really do like Sean Hennigan as Tenjin, because I think he's got a very interesting, like, wise old sage voice, while also simultaneously being like, I'm doing my best here, but my god, these people are ridiculous, I swear to god. But yeah, I really like Sean. I think he's got a very good, stern, caring figure in Yato's life. So yeah, I really like Leah, and I really think Sean's a pretty interesting casting choice for Tenjin in particular.
I like them. Do I not have any notes on Leah? I apparently don't have any notes on Leah. That is a shocker. Leah, I like how you attempt to describe Mayu as the bitter ex when really it is Yato.
No, you are correct. She's living her best life.
Mayu is living her best fucking life now that she is not living
with
Yato.
I don't know why I described her as the white woman Instagram. I don't know that she's trying.
I think you're tired.
I mean, you're correct, but there's just something about her that gives off the energy of like she's getting over it by posting through it, if that makes sense.
No. That's not the vibe I get from Mayu.
I get where you're coming from, but you're wrong.
That is incorrect.
Fair enough. Okay.
That's not even the vibe that Mayu has.
Alright, I will concede defeat on this bit.
No, I like Leah's Mayu, because, like, while Mayu is just, like, it kind of just gives the vibe of, like, yeah, I'm living my best life. Hell yeah, it's fine. Suck it, Yato. Like, she does have her moments where she does come in and is, like, she does still care. Despite
she very much does.
Despite Yato's stupid shenanigans, and how much Mayu and even Yukine are both like, this dude's poor as shit. Like, this, living with him and dealing with him is awful. Mayu still cares. Like, she is the first person that ends up being picked up by Daikoku when they're looking to do an ablution on Yukine. She's the one who volunteers. Because she's like, I used to be Yato's Regalia. I do owe him this much for getting me to this point. So, like, Mayu still cares. It's one of those things where it's like, Yato is a stupid fucking moron, but he does have people who care about him, regardless of whether he treats them well or not, or regardless of whether or not he's capable of providing for them. That's the word I'm looking for. Providing for them or not. Like, they still care, and Leah gives off that performance very, very nicely. I never hear Sean Hannigan in anything. The only thing I can think of out of the credits you gave was Ghoul Roger in One Piece. But, like, I love Sean Hannigan's Tenjin. Not just because he's this he's mostly seen as this wise old man, kind of like advisory figure to everybody, but he could be sassy as shit. Tenjin is sassy and slightly perverted on occasion.
Oh yeah.
And Sean
slightly.
And Sean likes to play that, so like plays that very, very well, and it's so much fun. But also Sean is, in terms of all of the gods that we interact with in this show, he is the voice of reason. And I say this because he is the one who is persistent that Yato cuts ties with Hiyori in order for her to live a normal life again. He is persistent that is the thing that Yato does. But obviously, that doesn't fucking happen. Despite Yato agreeing to do it in season 2. But never does. And then Hiyori's also like, no, I don't want it either. But Tenjin is he's a good fun old man who is very, very open to things, but he also is the one who gives the most air of caution when it comes to different things going on. And I think Sean plays both sides of that character very, very well.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. I, again, like Steph, I don't think you ever really hear Sean Hannigan in anything.
No,
and
yeah.
I don't think I've heard him in a lot since. I think Bakano is quite literally the only other thing I know him for. So I think he does a really good job, and especially as kind of, he plays Tenjin as older, but not as, like, the decrepit old man, because we see older gods who are older than him. Most notably, I believe, Hote, who is the god of longevity.
Yeah,
he's the little tiny short old man when the 7 lucky gods get kidnapped.
Yeah, he still has like this air of youthfulness to him.
Yeah. But he's not as youthful as, say, Brian Massey as Okuninushi.
Oh god, no. No one is as useful in this case as Okuninushi.
Yeah.
Come hang with me in Hawaii. Majima's here. But I really like his performance. I kind of like that era of threatening to him, but also, just like, hey, Grandpa's here to tell you not to do some stupid shit. Like, don't go smoke. Like, please stop smoking crack at my shrine, Yato. And then I really like Leah Clark as Suyu. Not Suyu. Wow, that's the frog. That's a frog.
Whoops.
Mayu. That level of, I really like that you can tell that he cares. She cares about him so much. To go out of the way to keep helping him. And, like, there's this little moment later on in season 2 where, Hiyori's getting to be a normal teenage girl for once. And I really love that scene where kind of Tenjin has this older, like, dad voice. It's like, don't you have any normal hobbies? Basically, like, go be a normal teenage girl for 5 minutes for once in your life, sweetheart. And she calls out to her, like, and he's like, no, let the hoe be normal for 5 minutes here. So I really like their dynamic across each other, and I really like how especially Leo plays off of Yato's actor, because I think they really do kind of have this moment together that's really cool.
So yeah, starting off, Leah Clark, she does tend to play a lot of characters, a lot of characters that are a bit aloof, but Mayu is reserved but also outspoken too, especially when we meet her the first episode and she just decides to quit because, she realizes Yato is nothing, but deep down inside, at least Yato gave her a chance to be somebody. I mean, to which she moved on to Lord Tenjin, and, he didn't expect to be reacquainted with her so soon. And I could have sworn at some point they dropped the reveal that, she didn't get fired, she quit to Hiyori, but I guess that never happened, or maybe it happened in manga. I do not know. I thought
No, I think it's played as a joke, that's why.
Anyway, Leo was good for what she's worth, and I've all the Regalias, of course, I picked her because she had more of an insight into Yato's character and more screen time out of all the Regalias. Sean Hennigan is not somebody I hear often, let alone speak about often, but I thought he did very well playing an old man who can be a bit of a jokester at times, but is very serious when it comes to... Well, he doesn't really... he plays a jovial old man, let's put it that way, because, it's not like a usual old man when, besides just giving you life advice, he tell you certain things, he's also keeping them in line, making sure that he always grows up to be a normal person, with a normal attitude and a normal life. Basically, he wants Hiyori to be the best person she can be for herself. Enjoy life while she's still alive. She's not dead yet, so he's very serious when it comes to when he tries to get Yato to cut ties with her. Just for her sake. And of course, again, I thought that was gonna happen. Like after he struck a deal with Yato to send him to Takamagahara, but that never happened, of course. So we're almost back to square one. But going back to square one, I think we're good to move on to the next pair, which.
Can we talk about Kofuku now?
Yes,
Sometimes,
Jesus Christ.
Look, every good relationship needs somebody that matches your freak.
See, okay, I'm not gonna go there, Andrew, because Steph is right next to you, so y'all do you.
Hey,
me.
Excuse me? I love this woman very, very much. And this woman matches my freak perfectly. Thank you very much.
Why did you have to say like that?
She also puts me in my place. That's also how it works. Because here's the thing.
Does.
Because Kofuku is the chaos goblin, but also Daikaku is the good balancing force in her life. That's good for her.
So what you're saying is you're Kofuku and I Daikoku.
Yes, that is exactly what I am saying.
Unfortunately, that is very accurate and I hate it.
Sometimes you need me to be a little calmer, but also your energy helps balance me out, and vice versa. That's a good pair. And that same can be said about Alexis Tipton and Ian Sinclair, because, oh my god, Ian Sinclair's so good as this little grouchy Yakuza guy with a heart of gold. And Alexis Tipton playing... how many pig girls now?
Pink-haired girls?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you for catching on, because other than
I had a
Ev-
feeling you were doing all pink hairs.
Yeah.
Oh, look, 4K.
Jesus.
Alright. But yes, Alexis, Ian's a very good like he's a very good center of gravity for everybody around him. He bitches and moans, but he's got a bigger heart than almost everybody there. And you can tell he's kind of like... You know what Daikoku is? You know those memes about the dad who got the dog he didn't want? And then he falls in love the hardest with the dog the most? That's Daikoku?
Yeah, it's true.
Where it's like, I didn't want this dog at all. If anybody hurt this dog, I would kill everybody in this room.
And then myself.
That's Daikoku. That's Daikoku. It's Daikoku with all the stray cats that keep coming into his lady shrine.
You have no idea how true you are. You are about that.
Mm-hmm. And Kofuku, I love the fact that, I think one of my favorite scenes with her is actually, like, how she's kind of like a goofy little silly ooh-woo lady, but also she's not an idiot. How you can tell she's, like, basically, like, stepping up to Bishamon when she's kind of, like, looking for Yato, and she's like, I'm not an idiot. I can wreck your shit if you try me. And I'm like, ooh, that's fun. That's very fun. But I really like Alexis and Ian for their deliveries on those two in particular. They're a great pair. They match each other's freak perfectly. Speaking of which, how's my other Match My Freak girl doing?
Currently looking up to see exactly how many pink-haired characters that Alexis Tipton has played.
All right.
Yes.
I forgot about her character in Sakura Quest.
She's the lead in that, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a show I've never finished.
Neither have I, so don't worry about it.
I did because Lauren made me for Recommend or Die. Thanks, Lauren.
I guess it's... Well, Steph's going. I'll talk about these two. So, I absolutely love Daikoku and Kofuku. I think that they were probably my second favorite ship in the entire show, by the way. We'll talk about my favorite one in a little bit. But my favorite thing about them is just how much Alexis and Ian's chemistry is just off the chart between the two of them. They exude the absolute hell out of these two lovable idiots so much. There is just so much good in their performances. I love how Ian's got this, like, gruff but, like, caring dad voice. And I also today learned that they are in fact rich enough to drive a Hummer.
Yep.
So much for that shit, right?
H3 if I remember correctly, yeah.
Yeah, they drive a Hummer, which I find really funny that they do. Then there's also just this level of how much Daikoku just cares about Yukine. Like, it's clear that... God, how do I bring this up? I'm not gonna spoil it because I'm gonna let Andrew and Steph get to that themselves, but you'll the thing about Daikoku being dad is a little bit more on the notes than you think. I love Kofuku's chaotic energy. I love the episode she gets introduced because of the part where they're helping the guy from not killing himself. And they find out that Kofuku had just been stringing him along because she was mad at Daikoku.
Yeah.
That scene is so funny to me. I'm sorry. It's just so fucking funny.
Hey, he always found it funny too.
Yeah. Like, I just love Alexis's childishness as Kofuku, but to me, the moment that, like, really steals my heart in Alexis is just the levels of desperation where she pulls out the 100 yen, the $100 bill, and says that she's going to bet on Bishamon to win.
Yeah.
Because if she bets on her, she'll lose. It's so good. It's, like, genuinely one of my favorite performances Alexis and Ian have ever done, just because they're so cute together. So yeah, props.
I'm still counting.
Oh my god, she's still counting. Alright,
Stephanie,
Jamal.
go!
While she does that, yeah. Yeah, these two...
The answer's 38-39.
Okay, she can go now. Damn.
Jamal's already started, he can go.
Ah, damn it.
So yeah, the thing about Alexis is, yeah, that was a thing for me back in the early days when I first heard Alexis, because one of the common things throughout the industry was that there was always specific typecast for specific people, and Alexis was always the pink-haired one, to the point where if I saw a pink-haired character, you would be surprised it wasn't Alexis Tipton. I mean, even she joked that, she joked that she would dye her hair pink, but she's not gonna. Anyway, Alexis has this strong childish energy, but it's really serious where the time comes for it. Because one of the things they mentioned on the commentary in episode 9 is that every time they had to record the scene with Alexis in it, they had to mute her so that she wouldn't crack up the other people recording. And
That's funny.
I love that. That's great.
Yeah, she just has this humorous air about her, and she can blend into almost any situation with Kofuku regardless, like no matter what it may be. I think one of the favorite lines that was pointed out in that episode commentary was after Yukine's evolution was a success, she slaps both him and Yato on the back, and both of them say, "Oh, I thought I was a dead man there," and then she's like, "But you are dead," and I thought that was it was pretty cute. So.
But you are dead.
But yeah, I really like it when she plays cute characters. But when she plays serious, she plays it serious too. So, and especially the whole dynamic between her and Daikoku, to which Ian Sinclair's Daikoku is unbelievable. Because for one thing, this was recorded after Space Daddy had rapped, and I think he was just starting in One Piece, because they mentioned doing a total switch, especially when you go from like show to show. Having to go from Brook to Daikoku it's a huge total whiplash. So
Yeah, one's got a lot more meat on his bones.
oh, for fuck's sake. Anyway,
Why are you booing? He's right.
You walked into that one.
but Ian Sinclair definitely manages to hold up Daikoku in regard, like, especially when Daikoku's like somehow cried at some of the sad moments, like when Yato gets his shrine or he gets his blessed vessel, and it was one of them, either he or Mayu, that says nobody deserves
It was them at the same time. Nobody has ever deserved it less.
Yep.
Oh man,
No one ever deserved it less. Yep.
It's amazing. You could cry when he's happy. You could cry when he's sad. He could also cry just to give us some bit of brevity to the show, which that's one thing I like about the show. The brevity doesn't detract too much from the storyline. It's just
It's a very 2000s feeling bone show, despite the fact that it came out in the 2010s.
The mid 2010s, yeah. So, but yeah, Alexis, Ian, they have a really great dynamic. Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna try and be relatively quick.
Yeah.
Ian is the big, fun, tough guy, and it's really, really fun. Like Ian plays dad. Ian is the dad of this, not just for Kofuku, but for fucking Yato and Hiyori. Well, not so much Hiyori, but Yato and Yukine. He has, like, big dad energy, but also has the energy of a Yakuza guy, which makes for a fun combination for Ian to play, and I love it so much. And then Alexis is Kofuku. Alexis is just so peppy and cheerful and has so much energy, like she could bounce off the walls. It's not even funny. But I think for both of these performances, what I also appreciate is you primarily could see Kofuku and Daikoku as comedic relief, like 8 or 9 times out of 10. However, they do also have those moments of seriousness, of vulnerability. Like you had just mentioned the part where Kofuku's just like, I'm betting money that Bishamon wins in an effort to get her to fail, in the hopes that she will lose, because Kofuku's the god of poverty. Like, it's moments like that where it kind of reminds me that all of these layers that are mixed in, and it's moments like that that remind me that both Alexis and Ian are very good dramatic actors. Like, from at this point, like, they were probably primarily, like, thrown into, like, some more fun, comedic, like, lighthearted stuff, but then you have the moments like this where it's more serious and kind of can get dark sometimes, and both of them do phenomenal work with it. And their dynamic with each other is just too much fun. Like, Alexis is the Energizer Bunny, effectively, and Ian is just, like, the one that has to wrangle her in half the time. And it's just such a sweet and adorable and fun dynamic throughout the whole course of the show. So, no, yeah, I like these two a lot.
That have been said, I think we're good to move on to the next section.
Yes.
Who's ready to have a good bad time?
Oh, God.
Yes, we have the God of War at her blessed vessel. We have Bishamon and Kazuma. Bishamon, as I just said, is the God of War. Her full name is Bishamonten. She had a grudge against Yato for... well, in the past, Yato destroyed some of her previous regalia, which was assembled under the Ma clan name. Kazuma is her only survivor. Nail that became her blessed vessel and exemplar as a result. Blossomed into a beautiful flower earring. It turns out he holds Yato in some regard because he was the one that kind of ordered the hit on the Ma clan, because as we will discuss this arc, Mishima was previously blighted by obtaining all her regalia. See, this is where the Shikabai Hime part comes in. So basically, when you have a bunch of regalia, you have to endure their pain, their heartaches, and it kind of takes a toll on their body. Kind of the same in Corpse Princess, to an extent. I've always seen like 1 or 2 corpses per month, but that's the point for right now. It takes a toll on her body to the point that, like, he just wants what, I guess, to point out the cliche, he just wants what's best for her and orders the hit. And after everybody else in the Ma clan is destroyed, he's the only survivor. Bishamon just wants to be with him. She also doesn't want anybody else, but, being a God of War, she still has to do a job diligently. Because she wants to save everybody the best she can. And, of course, Kugaha doesn't like that because they hold her in high regard. So, that having been said, Bishamon is played by Elizabeth Maxwell. Kazuma is played by Eric Vale. As for what the other roles they've done, Elizabeth Maxwell, you've heard of Sainajima in Persona 5, Ymir in Attack on Titan, Arisa Utani in Fruits Basket 2019, Poe in Space Dandy, and because I remember this show existed and this came before Noragami, 6 in Nobunaga. Eric Vale, you've heard as Phoenix Wright in the Ace Attorney anime, Sirius de Alicia in Aquarion, Teppei Takamiya in Bedex, Yuki Soma in Fruits Basket, and Sanji in One Piece.
Okay, I want to go first, please.
Yes.
I have 2 things to say. Number 1, Bishamon is why I'm bisexual. I am so
right.
down bad.
Yeah. That is right.
I am so down bad for this woman.
That is an objectively correct choice.
Like, this was right around the time, like, I realized I was bi. And I remember being at a con and meeting somebody. And I was talking about anime women I was into. And I just said cryptic lesbians. Voiced by Elizabeth Maxwell. Because it was also Ymir.
Oh, yeah.
Except for... God, I want Bishamon and Kazuma to make such beautiful love to each other. They are my S-tier ship in this show.
Megan, when they first meet each other, he nails her. What are you talking about?
Andrew!
Oh my god, Stephanie, I need you to smack him. Just bap him. But no, so there's something I actually really want to talk about and this is like the one gripe I actually have with this anime, and that is some of the things that were left out. Because as much as the tragedy of the Ma clan is there, it is so much worse in the manga.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so there's a reason why the paranoia spreads, and it's not just as like, well, it just happened one day. type of thing. Like, the backstory applies in the anime, which, like, kudos to a lot of the actors on that. Very specifically, this is going to involve the girl that Kristen McGuire plays, that was teaching Kazuma how to make the borderlines as a baby Shinki.
Oh, yeah.
So basically, you know how that old Shinki was like, how dare you pierce her skin? That was her original guide. And at one point, Kazuma gets called on to go on a mission with her. And he's like, well, like, I'm not worthy, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, what the fuck, dude? You got called by your master, do the job. So it turns out that he's really good at seeing shit. And it's implied that that old woman got jealous. And she's the one who was actually blighting Bishamon the whole time.
Oh, damn, okay.
So what happens is, that girl that was, helping Kazuma, she also one day wants to become a blessed regalia. She would turn into a pot lid. She basically says to her, it's like, well, how do we know you're not the one doing it because you're jealous? And they basically witch hunt her and throw that girl into a vent.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Oh,
yeah,
God.
so it's a lot more fucked up, and I didn't even talk about the thing with the kids that they did to Ebisu Shinki.
Oh, please don't. I need to read the manga now.
Yeah, Kagame, baby. I absolutely love these performances. Like, to this day, I think Bishamon is one of my favorite Elizabeth Maxwell performances. Like, it is one of her gold standard career moments. Like, there have been a lot of amazing ones that have come first, but, like, Bishamon, and especially Bishamon in Aragoto, is, like, such a high that I don't think a lot of other actors can touch, really. Like, to me, she is the only person I could ever see playing Bishamon in English. She has that warm, motherly tone, but she also has that unending anger at Yato, which is totally misguided. Because at the end of the day, the reason she's mad is more or less she's taking out her own failures on Yato.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was talking to a friend of mine, and it was talking to Getter, our friend, and he was like, a lot of the Bishamon arc is, in a sense, about envy. In that how Aiha and Kugaha were jealous about not being called upon, but in a sense, too, Bishamon being envious of Yato for being able to do the thing that she couldn't do, which was to put the Ma clan out of their misery, and she had to put the Ha clan out of their misery.
Yep.
The ones who got eaten, because it is absolute body horror in that these poor people who, mind you, a lot of the regalia aren't even combat ready. They're things like broken mirrors, or like rusted sword hilts, or like Kazuma was a nail.
Right.
And the thing that works for this so much for me is how well Eric Vale plays Kazuma, because this very much to me. It's really funny you bring up both Phoenix Wright and Yuki Soma, because I feel like his Kazuma voice is very much just like right in the middle of that.
Yeah.
I love Kazuma. I think Kazuma is one of the most fascinating characters in the series, and I genuinely love him as a foil to Yukine, in that they are both incredibly loyal to their masters and they love them. But where Yukine fucks up is because he's a child. I think Kazuma's a little too in love with Bishamon, and that blinds him into doing stupid shit.
I can see that, yeah.
So,
He basically kind of admits that, like, there's this weird, guilty joy he feels when she's basically at her lowest and talks about, like, how all she needs is you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's why they make the exchange diary, so that they can all get to know each other better, because one of my favorite things that happens is Hiyori calls them out. Hiyori is like, what the fuck is wrong with all of you?
Yeah. She's like, that's not a way to live.
Because they don't communicate with each other, because they do the very Japanese thing of, for the betterment of society, we're not going to let anybody know that something's wrong with us. That is just the way it goes. I highly, highly implore you to watch or read other Japanese media, something, play Final Fantasy XIV Endwalker.
You went a surprisingly long episode without mentioning it. That's restraint. I'm proud of you.
No, I'm not kidding you. That is an actual theme of that expansion.
I believe you.
I also believe you.
Anyway, I think these performances are magical, and I want to see Kazuma and Bishamon use the Kazuma Sutra, if you know what I mean.
Ha-ha! That's pretty good. Yeah, I like Eric Vale as Kazuma quite a fair bit. I think he's got a very good job sounding like this very loyal, very kind, smart guy. You know what it is? He's playing the best person. He's playing himself as this strong, cool, mighty guy, but you can tell that there's just an incredible amount of crippling insecurity and self-doubt that he's not good enough, that he's not strong enough, that he isn't deserving enough. Like, he feels guilty for the things he can't do, but he is so much more than he thinks he is. Even doing probably like one of the kind of sickest things in the entire show, which is quite literally grab the dragon by the balls.
Yeah, effectively.
That's not even like a thing. It's literally, it's like, his woman is asking him to show his dominant side, and he basically says, "Yes, ma'am." And he did it, and that was pretty fucking sick.
It's true.
It's true. It's true. There's a very... Yeah, I can't even deny. Yeah, they could get it. They could get it real good. But no, I really like Eric Vale's very complicated but very earnest, loyal devotion to his master. Which I love how in like the video commentary of like episode 6 of Aragoto, where he's like, "You haven't called me master in a while." Elizabeth Maxwell's like, "Ooh."
Yeah.
Oh, but yeah. Like, I would definitely say it's hard to say who is the best performance in the entirety of all of Noragami. I think there's all really strong performances. I'm gonna say Aragoto is Elizabeth Maxwell's domain to shine.
Was where her domain expanded?
Oh my god.
No. I'm actually going to go a different direction and go with the fact that the domain expanded to show off her vocal range, her character arc, and all of the multifaceted sides of Bishamon 10 and Vina as a character, instead of making the domain expansion about her butthole.
What? What?
Where'd you...
What the fuck?
See, I was trying to swerve it away from the sex joke I thought you were making about the domain expansion.
I wasn't making a sex joke, you fucking weirdo!
What the fuck is wrong with you?
I misread where that was going. I thought Jamal was thinking that was...
Typical anime fan.
Wait, I think Jamal thought that was a sex joke, and I was like, no, I see what she's doing. That's my bad.
No, I'm talking about domain expansion as in imposing her will, you freak.
I'm too tired for this level of literary criticism. Anyways, genuinely, sincerely, running that back, you're right, this is one of Elizabeth Maxwell's best fucking performances. The sheer level of anger, fury, sadness, rage, maternal kindness, love, hate, loyalty, newfound purpose. It's so good. Everything, every single thing she gives to Bishamon is incredible. It's legitimately, I think this is genuinely one of the best performances I've ever heard from Elizabeth Maxwell. I'm so glad that Elizabeth got so close with Caitlin Glass working on Aragoto in particular, which led to them becoming close friends, which led to her playing probably like one of my favorite side characters in Fruits Basket, actually. Uotani. God, yeah, this is an incredible performance from Elizabeth Maxwell. I can see why Bishamon is a character that's near and dear to her, and it's not hard to see why. I forgot how good this arc was. It's tragic, it's humbling, it's cathartic, it's letting all of the pain, anger, sorrow you couldn't deal with, let it finally out. Noragami is a show about gods and deities learning that healthy communication is better than generational trauma.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah. Elizabeth Maxwell, incredible.
I get. No, go ahead.
I'll say, I think this is the strongest pairing of the show. And it's very interesting because Elizabeth Maxwell was still up and coming at the time of season 1. And while Eric was obviously way established by this point and a veteran of the industry, you still got to see him in a role that you don't often get to see him in, right? Because when we used to do predictions back in the day, and Megan and I attempted to make predictions for Noragami, right? We completely and utterly failed at guessing Eric Vale as Kazuma. We failed spectacularly. And I'm glad we failed spectacularly, because if it was I can't see it be anybody else but Eric now. Even 10 years later. Because for Kazuma, the tone is very gentle, very soothing. It's also has that authoritative tone that it needs. However, at the same time, from the things we learned in the Bishamon arc, we know that he has a lot of insecurities. Kazuma is very insecure about his capabilities as a Regalia, his capabilities as a blessed vessel, his capabilities as Bishamon's exemplar, right? And Eric plays all of those moments so beautifully, and it's just, it makes the story all the more tragic the more you listen and you watch the show, and especially hear the story from Kazuma as to what actually happened with the Ma clan. It also makes Bishamon just as tragic as well, when we talk about Elizabeth, because Elizabeth is so fierce, so strong. She gives that, like, that energy where she will just, like, kick your ass. She wants to, like, kick your ass, like, take names. What's the fucking saying?
Kick ass and take names?
I was thinking the one about bubblegum, but she's out of bubblegum.
Oh.
I'm here to kick ass and chew bubblegum, and I'm all out of gum.
That's it. Thank you.
It's the Duke Nukem line.
Thank you. That's the one. And Bishamon is, like, you're, like, ready to go full force. But when you also interact with Bishamon, a lot of it from the get-go is because of her hatred of Yato. And the more we learn about it, Megan, you're absolutely correct. It's a false hatred, because what she's kind of doing, in a way, is she is mad at herself. She's angry at herself for not realizing what she has done, not being strong enough to do what needed to be done to save not only herself, but for everybody, including the Regalia that ended up getting hurt in the process. Because at the end of the day, these Regalia are still technically human. They are born from humans who have passed away, and it's one of those things where it's like, at some point you have to not just let them go, but find the strength to, like, give them mercy. Because when is it gonna get to the point where it's worth it's worth the pain and suffering to keep these people around, especially if they're the ones hurting you. And it's the Bishamon arc in general is just like the biggest, heaviest piece of the whole fucking show. And the 2 seasons that we have, it is the biggest, one of, I would say, but one of, if not the biggest. The other one I think we're going to kind of get to in a little bit, and soon, actually. But it is the strongest arc in the entire show, and it is 100% because of both Elizabeth and Eric and their performances. Because it hurt so much. It hurt so much seeing the things that they had gone through to get to this point. But both performances were just absolutely fucking incredible, for sure. I love them both.
So yeah, for me, I'm gonna start with Eric first, actually, because with a person like Eric Vale, like I've always ever seen him like as like either the comedic characters or the jerk, hardly anything in between. But when I heard him as Cosmo, I thought I really appreciated the Tony took with his character, because Cosmo is very serious about Shad, very serious about his master, who he cares for. It's extremely trusted by her, that he would do anything for her, especially save her life to regard. Like he knows he's talented, but deep down, like he'll do anything for her at any cost, especially having the whole clan exterminated just for her safety, because she hasn't realized what he's done. And I thought it was very neat that it was Eric Vale in this role of all people, and I meant to do it like that. You're right. It is within his tone between Phoenix Wright and I forget who else you said.
Yuki Soma.
Yuki Soma, because like I said, I met the guy, so I understand like how he's approaching his character. I'm also pissed I had to get $100 for his autograph, but that's reasonable. Anyway, but yeah, like I said, I've only ever like seen him being comedic. I think one of my favorite moments is partially when he's training Yukine, and he's keeping score on how many times he's restrained him. But I think my favorite off the cuff moment is one we'll probably never ever see again. It was when it was airing on Double Talk. They had a blooper for when they were trying to get Yato out of the underworld, and they were trying to figure out what his real name was. And he's like, Dave, just call him Dave.
Yeah, Dave.
Wow, that's a fucking deep cut of a memory. Remembering Double Talk exclusive bloopers.
Oh yeah, Dave.
I feel so old now.
Christ.
You feel old. Wait till this episode comes out. Jesus Christ. Anyway, so yeah, like I said, you hardly see Eric Vale doing anything in between the serious side and the comedic side, but when he does do it, it is really impressive, especially when you just reminisce to his old master about the old days, and he's just tearing up over what he has done to an old clan. So, but I think who really teared up the most, obviously, here is Elizabeth Maxwell's Bishamon, to the point, and she said on a commentary too, that everybody that was crying as he was crying for real, like Caitlyn brought out real tears in everybody. So it is very heartbreaking to see what Bishamon has to go through time and time again, to the point she realizes her mistake too. And the fact that Bishamon is fighting against Yato, she describes it as not unlike something with her scene partner. And I thought that was a very interesting dynamic to describe, but hindsight, it really makes perfect sense, because she was very antagonistic, but that was because she was, like you said, holding a grudge, not against Yato, but against herself for allowing this to happen. He was just the end result of all this, but Yato pretty much took the job from Cosmo, so I will say, though, the one thing I really like about Bishamon as a character is not just the main regalia she has, but the unique regalia she has, and how she just approaches a situation with her regalia, because she knows they're more than just regalia. people in the very end, and if she can't save everybody, who can she save? And that's something I understood going forward into her arc. Especially when she got vocally upset at Cosmo for what feels like betrayal. Man, if Cosmo got his name revoked, I don't know what would have happened there, but I don't know. It's moments like those that it kind of makes you want to tear. It kind of makes you want to tear up a bit, or at least break your heart a little. I know Elizabeth gets caught up in the emotional moments very well, to the point that she has missed a cue or two a few times in the booth. So, but I really like what she brought to the table, and I know this came at a time when she was more or less still green. I mean, her first role was Ymir in Attack on Titan, and she went up from there, you know. But Elizabeth manages to bring out the best in Bishamon, and like you said, I can't see anybody else voicing Bishamon. I mean, Bishamon is a character and a half, man. Like, Jesus Christ.
Oh no, that is one whole ass woman. That is a... I don't know where I was going with that. I think I just kind of forgot and blanked for a second, because like, damn, she's fucking hot.
So at that point, I think we're good to move on, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And tonight we honor the heroes. So
Squad time.
Squad time. We're gonna talk about the main three characters of the show. We have Yato, we have Hiyori Iki, and we have Yukine.
Actually,
now,
since this is about a religion to a god, technically, are we going to church?
I am not blasting T-Pain on my computer right now. Thank you very much.
All right.
Anyway, Yato is a nameless god who comes from the far shore, doesn't have a shrine. We come to realize he's only anchored to the world by his connection to the near shore that happened to be father, at least as far as I know in the anime. I don't know what it actually is in the manga. I could be wrong. He kind of meets Hiyori after he's shoved out of the way of a moving bush trying to rescue a cat named Malord. Can only be seen by phantoms, other gods, and in his case, Hiyori, who's a middle school, now high school girl, martial arts nerd, yay! She cares deeply for her friends. She becomes a half phantom after the result of a bus accident, which she was hospitalized. We find out she's from a wealthy family.
She gets pseudo Yu Yu Hakusho'd.
Yeah, she really does.
Yeah, basically. We also learned that she has a power for detecting gods nearby through the unusual scent of a god. Every god has a different scent, and she's able to pick up their smells. Power so good she has to hide it from the other gods. And then we have Yukine, a wandering spirit who becomes Yato's regalia. Bears two names. One in human form is Yuki, and the other in regalia is Saseki. Is initially distrustful of Yato at first because, he's nothing. It kind of gets to the point where he starts getting blighted, which in turn kind of affects Yato, and almost got out of hand to the point he almost becomes a phantom himself. Which, if he was the blue-tid, Yato would have been dead already. To which, if you're wondering, in the blue shit is when you need 3 regalia to borderline the affected regalia, because only regalias can judge other regalias, since they all used to be human.
Of shame.
Shame.
Thank you for that, Megan.
Shame.
Yes. In which the body is basically cleansed or burning, and you have to confess your sins. In the second season, After he comes clean, he becomes a little bit more trustful to Yato and decides to work on his attitude as himself as Regalia. So much so he almost sacrifices his name to Bishamon after during the battle in Takamagahara. Gets cut in half and ends up becoming a blessed vessel, to which he's not one but two katanas. It was a bi-generation, if you could believe it.
I think it's weird that there were not two Yukines.
Regalia is a unique attribute. We don't know what forms they take. Hell, as a matter of fact, he shows up again as a whole sword, like, towards the end of the season, but that's another story. Anyway, he becomes a blessed vessel as a result of the exemplar, to which he has to set a good example for Yato to follow. And he has a hard time. Yato has a hard time breaking the habit first, but then like after the whole Ebisu arc, he vows to become a different person. So much so that he revokes Nora's name, which I think was Hiki at this point. But then again, she has many names, so what does it matter? He gets rid of Nora, and they vow to strengthen each other in the end, basically. But playing these three, I'm going backwards. Yukine is voiced by Michael Solusad. Hiyori Iki is voiced by Bryn April. And Yato is voiced by Jason Liebrecht. Michael Solusad, you've heard as Gakushu Asano in Assassination Classroom. Tsutomu Senkawa in Buried the Mighty Decode. I bring that up for a reason. Toma Kamijo in the Real Dex franchise. Shun Kaido in The Disastrous Life of Psyche K, the Funimation dub. And Mizuki in Kamisama Kiss. Bryn April, you've heard as Ritsu in Assassination Classroom. Historia Rice in Attack on Titan. Kotori Izuka in Data Life. Shirahoshi in One Piece. And Moe in Sakura Quest. She's also some girl named Moe in Sakura Quest. Jason Liebrecht, you've heard as Abel in Street Fighter 4. Mordecai in Borderlands. Finian in Black Butler. Jack the Ripper in Nobunaga. And probably my favorite role of his, Principal Anshin Shin-chan.
Alright, I'll go first again.
Yeah.
Let me start with Hiyori. This was kind of the show, I think, that introduced me to Bryn April. Obviously, I think, like, Ass Class would come out that next year. No, I don't, I refuse to call it by its full name at this point, I'm tired. So, I love Bryn's Hiyori, and I think she really comes into herself the most in season 2. Like, there is an obvious shift in the tone and, like, her performing abilities. By that point, she had had a year in her belt, and I think, let's be real. Historia doesn't really do a lot in Titan until season 3, where she enacts the one good thing that has ever happened in that show, Eren Yeager getting smacked in the face and told to shut the fuck up.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah.
But I think the way that she holds Hiyori's heart is so just enchanting. She's so sweet, and yet she's also so brutally blunt. And that's, like, my favorite thing about Hiyori.
Yeah.
Is that, like, despite she's not the rich Ojo-sama type, I love the fact that her being rich is, like, secondary to anything that happens with her, because she's a good person regardless of how much money she has. And she will do the right thing because it is the right thing to do, not because it benefits her in any way. Like, obviously Bryn has a lot of the screaming comedic chops down, but her being able to maintain that heart throughout her entire performance, especially when she does have to scream a lot of it.
Yeah.
Because, shonen action show. I love her performance. I definitely think it's one of her core, like, if you had to put, like, a core, like, 5 roles into Bryn April, I would definitely put this in there. I don't know if I would say it's maybe, like, I have a lot of Bryn performances I really like, that's why, over the years, and I think she's become such an incredible actress. So it's hard to say. Let's talk about everyone's favorite little shit.
Which one?
Yukine. To which a lot of Noragami can be summed up with the sentence of "God damn it, Yukine."
He's doing his best.
he's doing his best, but if you reading the manga, you will get pissed off at him again. He goes through a lot. I don't want to spoil how he dies, because that is a huge mystery in the show, but you get kind of hints of it, in that he is afraid of the dark. Just gonna leave that there. I think, to me, the work with him in season 1 is some of Micah Solusod's strongest performances of all time. You would think that everyone would point to episode 9, where he goes through the Triangle of Shame. For me, I refuse to call it anything else. Naughty anime characters go to the Triangle of Shame.
I mean, you're correct.
All naughty anime characters will be put into the Triangle of Shame, to be judged by their peers. For me, the thing that really seals Micah's performance as Yukine is when he inadvertently causes the death of that little girl.
Oh.
Yes.
Spirit.
Oh, God.
Because he tells her, Mom's not coming. Because the thing I like about Yukine is that he is 100% completely, understandable in his motives. Like, there are a lot of times where, especially male anime characters, and this is going to sound really misandrous, and I apologize. Kind of. And that is, as somebody who has identified female and or non-binary for a vast majority of my life, I have seen male characters get the baby, like, he did nothing wrong gloves put on him for literal war crimes. And, like, committing genocide and being a genuinely asshole person because they have been mildly inconvenienced by life. I'm sorry. Yukine crashing out is valid. His anger is 100% valid to me, and the way that Micah performs it with this, like, childish inability to understand that not only that he is hurting somebody who cares about him, because said person is really shitty about communicating it, because, let's be real, Yato believe it, like, the whole belief that gods are above humans and they can do no wrong is actually bullshit. He causes it too because he's not there to be sympathetic to Yukine's, like, state of the world. And just kind of is too laissez-faire and lets Yukine figure it out the hard way that not only is he dead, people are going to forget about him. He's never going to get to grow up. He is never going to get to live the life that he should have lived, because he died as a child. He died as an innocent, young 14-something-year-old. And him believing that he did nothing wrong despite what's going on, to me, makes sense for a child. Like, for a young teen. And I think the way that Micah carries it with such genuine rawness, and when he finally, succumbs to the triangle of pain because Yato finally calls out to him, I think that those cries and those sobs are so genuine that they will pull on anyone's heartstring. So good there. This is the show that convinced me that Jason LeBrecq could actually act.
Oh yeah!
That sounds really mean. Hold on. This came out during a time where I did not watch a lot of dubs. I had started doing the podcast, but a vast majority of my college life was spent in that whole dub-hating era. Or, like, there were only a couple of good dubs, and just, like, watching shit subtitled was the way to go because dubs weren't streaming as availably, and it was nothing like it is today. I'm sorry, like, you would be like, I'm gonna sound really mean, but the current anime fan would be like a Victorian child experiencing the hydrogen bomb if they had to live how anime was distributed 10 years ago.
Oh my god! 10 years ago. 10 years ago.
No.
Go back to 20 years
No.
ago. That's even worse.
No.
No,
She's
no,
cooking.
that would be exposing. No, Steph, that would be like exposing the Victorian child to the Hadron Collider. Like, that would be like exposing cavemen to porn.
Megan's
Please don't make me spit my water out.
I saw her, like, the regret gulp.
Yeah.
Oh. Oh,
Like-
Megan, you're spinning
like-
right now.
Like, I'm sorry. If you think the people who can't handle the fact that Solo Leveling comes out on a weekly basis could not handle the idea that they would have had to, one, probably not stream that show, and two, had to wait a year plus for the dub, just saying.
Yeah, no, you're right.
So the only thing I was super familiar with Jason LeBrecton was Black Butler.
Oh, boy!
And, listen... This is the thing. I think Ernesto Jason Lebrecht is an incredibly talented actor. He has done some of the best modern anime dubbing work, whether it be Noragami, whether it be his work as, my god, what the fuck is his name?
Dobby?
Oh my... Thank you! As Dobby in My Hero, among a lot of other things. Jesus Christ, is Finian one of the worst cast characters in any English dub I've ever watched. I genuinely did not think this man could act. And then this fucker came along. He knows how to play Yato on a fundamental level. There is the funny, there is the sad clown, there is the desperate child. He can go from one to the other without taking a breath. Like, it is insanely seamless. And for something being 10 years old, and, like, going through and, you know, having watched him play one of genuinely shonen manga's most complex villains, settle down, My Hero haters, as well as a lot of other things, because there are a lot of roles that I really like Jason LeBrecht in, like, that aren't just Yato. Just to give another example of a character that I really like him as, like, even as, like, a one-off character, Torin in Gunbuster. You know, or Zeke Yeager, fucking phenomenal. Even though I hate that show.
See, I would go Milliam from Akka.
Oh, yeah, that fucking guy!
That fucking asshole.
Or Shars from Astra.
Yup.
Yep.
Oh god, I forgot Ernesto Shards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, dude's a good ass actor.
Dude's
Yeah.
such a good fucking actor. Just so good. Mwah. Love this. Absolutely great shit. You know, just like, or Sua from Orange. Like, let's go.
Yeah.
Or my other personal favorite. I'm gonna stop after this. John Watson from Empire of Corpses, aka, Weekend at Russian Bernie's.
Yes. Yes.
I think Jason is such a phenomenal Yato. And, like, there are these moments of just, like, absolute, like, awful dread. Like, when he is being genuinely threatening. But to me, one of the single funniest things in the show is just, like, how quick he can just go from being the absolute worst, is how he can just become the absolute worst. and that is just the noises he makes whenever he's being sneaky Yato. So there we go. I'm done. Go ahead.
Alright, so I think Steph and I need to go next because we have a very angry, grumpy little cat boy in our room right now that I think is telling us we need to get off the computer and go the fuck to sleep. So I'm gonna start by talking about this show's personal own angry cat boy who would yell at us and tell us to go the fuck to sleep. Yukine. Micah Solusad, god damn. I think it's clear that they mentioned in, like, the commentaries that this is a higher voice on Micah's register, and, like, it's definitely peaking there a little, but the most impressive part is how he does a good job still being really convincing as, like, a young teenage character that is... I also think the thing that makes Yukine interesting is that he's almost played as, like, his arc. Nothing he does is ever past the point of no return. Nothing he has ever done, like, you can tell when you're trying to do, like, a character redemption arc, it can always be tricky, if you try to make the character, like, too monstrous. But, like, all Yukine does is effectively just kind of throw reasonable tantrums as somebody who is no longer alive and dealing with that. At first, it's just kind of like, oh, I won't get in trouble if I steal things. And then it's, nobody's gonna pay attention to me. I have no friends. Nobody's ever gonna know who I am. And that's a pretty genuine, discernible reason to freak out and crash out. And, yeah, I think Yukine's got a good little attitude to start off Season 1 with an incredibly painful, cathartic, monstrous, look, we call it the Triangle of Shame. You can call it whatever you want. You could call it an ablution. You could call it the Triangle of Shame. It's effectively an intervention for Yukine.
Yeah.
And it's painful, and it's cathartic, and the more that I think about it, the more that I realize Noragami is almost a thesis statement about, like, it's about myths and gods and the underworld and life and death, but it's also about, like, the pain of holding it in instead of confronting your problems and confronting what you really feel with those around you.
Mm-hmm.
It's the shonen battle equivalent of therapy.
Yeah.
There's a lot of those.
Yeah.
It is. They're not always good at it, though. People joke about Naruto's talk no jutsu for a reason. But, no, Micah Soul-san, incredible.
God, if Naruto was my therapist, I'm not gonna finish that thought.
Anyways, So, if Naruto was your therapist, you'd have more issues because he'd bump his toe and then he'd disappear because you were talking to one of his clones, and that would give you trust issues.
What am I, his son?
Yes.
My name is
Congratulations.
now Boruto. I am Boruto.
Anyways, Micah Soul-san, incredible performance. I love his Yukine a lot. Anyways, go on Yukine. Finish the other characters? Oh, I was just saying.
Do it!
Okay, cool. I like Hiyori Iki. Bryn April, incredible. Love her. Incredible. Sorry, trying to get my energy back up.
Excuse you.
I was trying to psych myself up, and then I had a little burp in my throat. Anyways, oh shit, I'm still talking about Yukine. Yukine, also in Season 2, he becomes a much more emotionally available, empathetic person, learning, I need to be calm, I need to be patient, I need to be understanding. But he also fails, he also struggles, he's not getting it right from day one. It's a rocky road, and he's learning to trudge it and walk it, even through all the struggles. I genuinely love that it feels like by the end of the season, he has a much better made-up relationship with Yato, and I love the change that Yato brought him along for the breakup with Nora. I really think this is impressive Micah Soul-san performance, and I can definitely see that even though this is higher in his range, he does an incredible job. Bryn April makes a star out of herself right out the gate as Hiyori Iki. Incredible. She is silly, she is goofy, she is sincere, she is kind, she can kick somebody's ass and pile drive them when they're being stupid about their feelings. Like, she's the great part of this trio because you can tell that, like, she is the one that's telling them to just fucking talk. Stop being idiots about your feelings. You feel something, tell them what you feel, tell them what they mean to you. Like, she's never going to do anything against somebody's will, but it's very clear that she's like, you're not being honest with yourself, and that's a good person to have in your life, especially Yato's life. And, yeah, Bryn's got a whole lot of versatility to her as Hiyori. I think as far as, like, how do I describe this? Megan, I know you're going to kill me if I say the phrase shoujo-esque, so I'm not going to do that too long.
It's okay. Everybody has their flaws.
It reminds me of, like I said, she reminds me as, like, a better take. No, I'm not even sure I'd say better take. She reminds me a lot of Kagome in the sense that, like, she is blunt, she is strong, but she is very open and honest with her feelings, and I can tell she's a great counterbalance to somebody who's a little stubborn and closed off, like Yato. So I think, for sure, Bryn and Hiyori is a balancing to this trio. And then there's Ernesto Jason Lebrecht as Yato, which is him literally saying, I go the entire gambit of my voice in 5 to 10 seconds of a line read as Yato. And you can hear it. You can hear him go, like in like a scene like when they're falling from the air. We didn't even have time to talk about the fact that they knock a guy off from who's falling to his death, and that's a funny scene.
And Bryn was way too happy about that episode.
Oh god, which also
oh no, that entire sequence is fucking hilarious.
It's hilarious. I didn't even talk about Bryn April basically playing other Hiyori Ikis. Like when she's playing Kofuku Hiyori. And also when she's playing Izanami.
Izanami Hiyori!
Oh, yeah.
Which was really hot!
And all three of those are different characters. And Bryn April, who was not exactly new, but at least greener than she was a decade later. And she made all three of those different characters sound convincing and compelling, especially when she's playing Izanami. She's scary, she's seductive, and also fucking crazy. While also playing actual Hiyori as, like, a very good girl who's doing her best and is very cute. And then, yeah, Yato is just the entire gambit of Ernesto's range. Unbelievable. Definitely one of the best performances of his career. Like, he's had a hell of a career since, but, like, Yato's definitely the kind of thing where it's like you could tell, like, they gave him a chance, and I think it was a very inspired choice for Yato in particular. I also found out he was still living in Houston at the time they recorded this, so he was doing, like, plane rides to and fro.
He was in Austin.
Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot. That's right, because he got to start over at ADV.
Yeah, he mentioned, like, his first dub was, like, Get Backers, and then Phil Parsons is talking about, like, yeah, I've been around since, like, 2002, 2003.
Damn.
Yeah. Crazy stuff. But legit, Yato's a fascinating character. If I gotta say, Eddie's scene, like, I think he's got a lot of great moments. I think I love when he's finally, like, had enough of Kugaha's shit. I love where he's just like, I just hear a child throwing a tantrum going, pay attention to me, mommy. And, like, I think that's a really cool guy moment. My favorite moment in the show, and probably my favorite part of, like, Ernesto's performance is when Hiyori builds him the shrine.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
That is just...
That makes everybody emotional.
That is just, like, it's a simple act. Hiyori's like, I want to do something nice to him. I want to give him something nice, because he'll appreciate it. And to Yato, this little shrine...
means the world.
It means his entire world. It is a level of genuine joy he has never thought he was ever allowed to have. And, like, Ernesto's performance as Yato in that moment breaks my heart. And it's, like, so good. Genuinely incredible performance. Yato's a complicated, fucked up character, but he's so interesting, and Ernesto gets to do so much with him. Absolutely kills it.
Oh boy. Where do I even start? I'm gonna start with Frag. I don't even know where to start now. I'm gonna start with Micah as Yukine because Yukine does the stupidest of shit half the time, and he's this young little lad who didn't get to live a full life, who died young. Obviously, I'm assuming because family issues is my assumption based on what I could glean from it contextually. But Micah gets to, throughout the course of the 2 seasons, gets to go from this bratty kid who is getting used to the fact that he is dead and growing into this relatively mature kid for all intents and purposes, because he has a new purpose in life, and that is to be there for Yato and to be his guide throughout the highs and the lows. And for Micah to portray that, the up and down roller coaster that Yukine has, Micah, I think, does this brilliantly. From the moments of bratty, rebellious teenager kind of thing, to the dark points of Yukine's arc, where he is stealing things, where he is breaking windows, things like that, and then all the way back around to discovering he does, similar to what I said with Mayu, Yukine does care about Yato. As much of a pain in the ass as Yato is, Yukine does care. And he wants to be there for him throughout it all. So, seeing Micah go through all of that is just fucking brilliant. I'm just saying that right now. I remember when I first watched the first season, the evolution hurt me. It hurt me, so bad. I think I cried at everything when I first watched the show years ago. I didn't this time, but I was just, I could still feel, the hurt and pain that Yukine had to go through, and Micah was just love it, phenomenal. Bryn is Hiyori. The only thing I had known Bryn for before this, I think, was actually Red Data Girl. Ironically enough. Because that was her first role and her first lead ever, I think. And Hiyori is a different kind of energy, because Hiyori is just no nonsense, very blunt, very straightforward. And I just love that about Bryn and her performance of Hiyori, is that it's just that straightforwardness, that very bluntness, but it's also because of that bluntness as well. Hiyori speaks her mind even when it's about the hardest things you could ever do or imagine. She doesn't hold anything back. Bryn doesn't hold anything back, and I think it's just a phenomenal performance throughout the whole course of the show as well. I want to talk about Jason Lebrecht as Yato. Back then, this was my favorite Jason Lebrecht performance, ever, bar none. Going back and rewatching the show today, this is still my favorite performance ever from Jason Lebrecht. Because Yato is all over the place. Mm-hmm. But it's all over the place with a purpose, if that makes sense. Because Yato is trying to change from who he was before as a god of calamity. He does not want that life anymore. He's trying to change. He just doesn't know how. So, at the same time, he's putting on this mask that he wears around everybody else to hide that past from them in order to keep them safe. That is the whole point, and that is the whole reason that Yato is the way he is. He wants to sever ties with his past. He wants to start over. And he wants to be able to protect the people he cares about the most from that past of his. It does come back and bite him in a way, though, because by hiding it and shoving it away and not talking about it, it causes more conflict in his relationship, specifically for Yukine. It causes some issues with his relationship with Hiyori, yes, but it's more for Yukine, and especially the stuff going on with Nora, right? So, Jason plays so many fun elements with Yato. The fun comedic moments, the whole, sales pitch shenanigans, the serious dramatic moments, the emotional moments, the vulnerabilities. Yato has probably the most complex, I think he has the most complexity, because there's so much layers and depth to Yato as a character that Jason gets to like dive so deep. Like, I think even more deeper than Bishamon and Kazuma, weirdly enough.
I could see it.
Like, there's so many aspects and pieces to Yato as a character that are barely explored in the 2 seasons that we have. And it's one of those things where it's like, I want to go and read the manga because I want to know more about this freaking little stray god.
Yeah, I think after all this, I'm like, I definitely need to finish this story now.
Right, no, 100%. 100%. And I think Jason portrays all of those elements beautifully, seamlessly. I love it. It's one of my favorite performances from the show. Is my absolute favorite Jason LeBrecq performance still to this day. So kudos to you, sir.
Mm-hmm. All right, then. I'll do my best to bring this home. So, starting with Micah. Yeah, one of the things that really put into perspective for me, and I wanted to put him on the list for the same reason, but I didn't bother, was episode 8 with the whole box cut episode. I know episode 9, or in certain cases, I forget what the episode for Mega was, but episode 8 was when you, things are kind of put into perspective for Yukine, because you know, he wants what he knows he can't have, and he's envious of Manabu, who can live out a daily life but is constantly bullied, and he just kind of lashes out at him for that kind of situation. And it's only when Yato tries to force his hand into maybe giving up his humanity if he wanted to, that Yukine just literally comes to blows with the situation, and everything just kind of escalates out of control. And I thought that's what really did it for me. I will admit, though, the blue shit was really tough as well, because I think Micah did that whole screaming session in one take. Fun fact, those phantom noises you heard that episode was both him and Chris Guerrero.
Nice.
Yeah, and not only that episode took a toll on Micah emotionally. But I really appreciate what Micah brought to the table, even if we don't hear him as much anymore nowadays. But when he brought it, like, yeah, it was definitely outside of his register, but, you know, Micah managed to keep it under control all the best. Especially the scenes he interacts with Hiyori, to which I was a little familiar with Bryn at the time, but because I've seen Dead Life and I've seen Red Day to Go, and I thought this is where it was starting to take off for her, because her as Hiyori was very interesting, because not only is Hiyori a unique character, but Bryn manages to display her with all her complexities and her simplicities and stuff, because, you know, she doesn't do the Ultra Sama thing, but because, you know, deep down she is generally a good person inside and outside. The whole martial arts thing, I really liked it. I mean, yeah, I found it funny, but I really liked it because, you know, she knows how to handle herself when the situation needs to be, but she also knows when she's out for League 2 at times, especially when she's in her phantom form. all those jungle savants she does, it was fucking hilarious. I will admit, though, there was one scene, I think, in episode 3 when she drop kicked the Phantom. I was like, man, if they had dubbed Gunbuster 10 years ago, this probably would have been brilliant, because she had the whole Nazma kick thing going on. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. I like how the chemistry she has dealing with Yato and Yukine, especially dealing with Yato, because, you know, on the one hand, you know, like, he's the reason she's in this situation. On the other, you know, she doesn't want to forget him, even if, you know, Far Shore citizens, like, you know, it's only it's kind of a perceptive filter they have on. Like, if you look away from them for a long time, you kind of forget about them, and you can see traits where it kind of displays that, like, you know, she's aware about them, but she doesn't remember them, especially in season 2 when Yato is disappeared for a month and she goes to Capipa land with her friends. But I thought, you know, Bryn did very well and very good job, and I think probably one of my favorite moments on the comedic side, episode 2 when she catches Yato in a leg lock and just suplexes him out in the air. I thought that was pretty funny. But on the serious side, when she built him that little shrine and he starts crying, not once but twice, it got me. Like, I was like, damn, 10 years later, it still gets me. But when I watched it the third time around, for some reason it wasn't effective as much, but it was still there. It was still there. Like, the tears wanted to come out. To which, and that's still Jason Lee Brecht as Yato. I was familiar with this game before. Like I said, I've seen him in Shin-Chan. I've seen him in Borderlands. I'm okay with his role in Finian. As someone who's watched a lot of British TV growing up and has British half siblings, I've heard a lot worse. But that's just me. He does admit that like he can within 4 Qs he'll hit everything in his rage, which we've heard here, aside from accents. That's and you know the 2010s was a different time, but I really thought he stepped up his game when he got cast as Yato. It was very fun, very very comedic, very serious where he needs to be. Especially like, you know, when you get deep down into his calamity side, like Jesus Christ, man. To which I don't think we ever mentioned, but we learned that like Yato just takes the name from the Yato no Kami. His real name is Yaboku, but that's all we learned about him for now. Like, we know he's a god of calamity. He's done some shit in his past that he kind of wants to sever. And I really appreciate his coming to terms with that at the end of season 2 when he releases Nora from his possession, quotation marks. I really appreciate what Jason brought to the table. I really appreciate what everybody brought to the table. Jason, Micah, Bryn. Oh, especially Bryn. Jesus Christ. Every form of Hiyori you could hear. Jesus Christ. But I think everybody did a solid job. And as the 11th hour nears, or 12th hour in this case, I think it's time to wrap things up. So let's get into final thoughts, ladies and gentlemen. After watching the show for so long, what did y'all think about this dub and the show as a whole?
I think this dub is a very interesting product of its time, but I will say that I think it's aged a lot better than I might have originally appreciated when I first saw it a decade ago. I will say, this dub is strong. This show is way better than I remembered it. I think I was kind of like, okay, Noragami's a pretty good action show for Bones. Fantastic. Oh my god. I could see why somebody like got really into this way back when. Incredible show. I'm really glad I could talk about this because the dub's a period, like a piece of history in and of itself, both as like the fact that Noragami kind of exists at like the end of the home video era and the start of the simuldub era simultaneously in both seasons. It's like one season is on the near shore and the other season's on the far shore.
Boo!
Boo this man.
Hey, I made it thematically relevant, but what I'm saying is I'm glad this dub exists. I'm really glad for Mike, and especially for what Caitlin brings out for Origoto in particular. This show's great. This cast is great. Thanks for letting me hijack this episode.
Yeah, like, it's so interesting to revisit the show legit, like, 10 years later. I think it still holds up today. It's still so... The show itself is a lot of fun. I forgot how fucking fun it is. And the dub itself is still, like, probably, like, almost, like, pretty much almost top tier English dub, like, phenomenal to me. All the performances are fantastic. The directing and the writing is just great. Everybody just hits those beats and those moments, just chef's kiss. I am so happy that this is the show you chose, Jamal, because I the last time I watched it was probably when I watched Arigoto, like 10 years ago. So it's so wonderful to get the chance to come back and revisit the show. And now, because again, I did the Humble Bumble thing recently. So I have, as far as I can tell, all of the manga. I can fucking read this shit now. Hooray! Like, I'm gonna be, like, having so much fun reading this. It's not even funny. But, no, yeah, if you have been living under a rock, if you are able to, please see this show. Just fucking do it, please.
Yeah, I'm gonna echo the sentiment of, hey, this was really good, and I remember really why I watched it and why so many people wanted season 3. The dub holds up extremely well. There's a lot of performances in here. I like some really top stuff. Genuinely a lot of fun to go back and rewatch. Like, I rewatched the whole show in a day, and it was just a great time. Yeah, I can't really... I've said a lot of what I wanted to say in the actual character parts. And I highly suggest, if you can, try to find a copy to buy. Hopefully they are not that hard. But, I believe Kodansha puts out both single volumes and omnibus of this, if you ever want to check out to read it, so...
Yeah, to echo everybody else's sentiment, yeah, it was a fantastic watch. It was a fantastic revisit for me. I hard to believe the last time I saw the show was 10 years ago, and I tell you, everything was spectacular. First season was good, second season was better. OP1 slaps, OP2 fucks. The EDs will make me want to cry. I think I may have cried at one point, but that was like during a difficult period in my life. I'm still going through difficult periods in my life right now. I would say though, everything was great. If I had a couple of nitpicks, well, I had one, but down two. The Robbo arc was really kind of pointless. I mean, it contributed something, but it just didn't really need to be there. And I think somebody fell asleep. Somebody accused he fell asleep at the wheel when they did the season 2 Blu-rays, because speaking of Robbo, I see him and I see other people credited from season 1 on this. I'm like, okay, yes, yeah, somebody messed up. Not only that, they took out the song credits for some reason. Did somebody forget? Anyway, that's not the point. It's neither here nor there. It is a great show. You should really invest. It is a timeless piece from the 2010s, but if you want to see the show for yourself, well, you kind of shit out of luck, unfortunately. Recently, the home video was pulled from streaming. Hopefully, it'll be back. I mean, if Kami-sama Kiss managed to come back recently, I hope Noragami will too. In the meantime, you can do your best to try to find a Blu-ray copy, maybe. Find yourself a used copy. If you could try to find a brand new one, that'd be good. I had to panic buy mine from a Walmart, from a merchant on Walmart. There might be subs floating around of season 1 on like Apple TV or Hulu, that kind of stuff, but do your best to try to find yourself a Blu-ray copy. If you're lucky, you might be able to find a limited edition too, but who knows. As for us and what we get up to, we're the Dub Talk Podcast. We air episodes usually every other Friday, especially this coming Friday in particular, because by the time this episode comes out, my birthday will have already passed, which is the day before. So, yay, happy birthday to me.
Yay.
Yeah.
No, I mean that with a genuine thing, but I'm also very tired.
I'm doing my best to wrap this up. Anyway, we come out episodes every other Friday on the podcast. But you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean, wherever you hear your usual podcasts. As for us and what we get up to, I can be found on the Twitter Jamstar529. I'm a sister editor for the podcast. I could also be found on the Blue Sky Jamstar529. I'm sitting on the name right now because my name is both a blessing and a curse, and nobody's going to take that away from me. I am trying to do a solo podcast, but again, it's going to take some time. Everybody plug yourselves.
Hi, my name is Andrew, aka Classy Spartan. You can find me over on Blue Sky at classyspartan.bluesky.social. I am on the Bad Place as well, but that's mostly just to retweet new Dub Talk episodes at this point. You can also find me over on Surreal Resolutions Podcast O&A, where I talk about the latest in anime news alongside fellow podcast co-host Jet. I also show up on my lovely ladies' Twitch streams now that I have morning shifts.
Howdy. Howdy ho! I'm tired. My name is Stephanie. I'm also sometimes known as Lilac. You can follow me on Blue Sky, Twitter, TikTok, Twitch, all at Lilac Anime Review. Review being spelled R-E-V-U-E. I have been doing the small streamer thing on Twitch. Right now, my stream schedule is all kinds of fucked up because of my dance class schedule is all kinds of fucked up. But primarily I've been streaming on... I try to stream on Mondays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. I'm still going through Kingdom Hearts. I'm almost done Kingdom Hearts. Yay. I'm going through Fire Emblem Three Houses, and I'm in the middle of streaming with this fool of a man, Andrew, with his Recommend or Die challenge currently, which is Resident Evil 2 Remake.
That game turns us into a bickering married couple.
It does! It's our bickering married couple phase. It's kind of hilarious.
Let's hope it doesn't lead to the divorce phase.
But yeah, that's where you can find me and my shenanigans.
Hi, I'm Megan. You can follow me on Twitter. Sorry, I don't have a Twitter anymore. You can follow me at queenera.bluesky.social. That's where I'm shitposting mostly. So yeah. That's mostly what I do.
And that's us, the Dub Talk Podcast. If you want to support us, we have a Ko-Fi. We also have a Patreon, to which, for the minimum of $5, you get your name shouted out on the internet. So, lovely thanks to Bright Eyes 505, Crimson Echidna, Just J2, Julia W, Quinoa Soup, Marissa Lenti, Megan's mom and dad, Michelle Travis. But for $10, you can enter the special Patreon raffle where you decide what episode we choose as a Patreon special, to which we like to thank Anthony Brown, Carly Leicester, Otaku Anthony, and Pika Greg. So, as we're about to be released, any last words before we wrap up?
Give us 5 yen.
I want bed. I'm tired.
Give us a coin for your troubles. Give us a coin for your troubles. It ain't easy to record full-fledged media criticism podcasts in this economy. We need 5 yen. It'll help us through the dark times.
Ash is yelling at us to go to bed.
Our grumpy old little Yukine is telling us to go the fuck to sleep. So I think it's time we go do that.
That having been said, Megan, Steph, Andrew, I hereby release you from this podcast episode and return to whence you came. Now, release! Good night, otaku on, and keep it holy.
Bedtime! Good night!
Watch
Bye.
your step. Have a nice fall.
Ah, shit.